You lie beneath the hush of night, where the sky stretches endlessly above you, dark, wide, infinite. The stars glimmer like grains of thought scattered across eternity, each one older than every dream that ever passed through human sleep. Somewhere among them, in that vast and silent ocean, drift the stones of the sky, asteroids, ancient wanderers carrying the dust of creation. They move quietly, without flame or trail, unlike the fiery meteors that blaze and vanish in a heartbeat. These are the still ones, the patient ones. You imagine them turning slowly in the dark, untouched by time, waiting. Each is a story, older than Earth, written in the language of rock and silence. When you breathe in the night air, it feels as if you could almost sense their presence, a weightless reminder of how old the universe truly is. The air you inhale was once part of stars, of explosions, of cosmic winds that shaped everything that is. And those stones drifting above? They are the bones of that same story, still moving through the endless quiet. Long before Earth had oceans or clouds, before your world even cooled enough for rivers to form, these bodies already existed. They circled the newborn sun in shimmering belts, pieces of a puzzle that never quite assembled into another planet. Scientists call it the asteroid belt, a region between Mars and Jupiter filled with fragments of early creation. But tonight, you simply see it as a slow-moving dream, a celestial meditation written in orbit. You picture one of those stones now, not through the cold gaze of a telescope, but through your mind's gentle eye. It's a mountain adrift in darkness, its surface pitted and cracked like memory itself. Sunlight brushes across its side, faint and distant, revealing metals that glint softly, like secrets. There is no wind, no sound, only the eternal hum of space. And yet, in its stillness, it moves, a reminder that everything, even silence, has motion. The asteroid does not rush. It drifts as though time has no hold over it. In a way, it doesn't. On such scales, 1,000 years is just a heartbeat. You feel your own sense of urgency ease, your thoughts slowing to match the asteroid's pace. Each of these stones is a messenger. Inside them lie minerals that once swirled within the sun's fiery halo, bits of carbon, iron, and nickel, the very materials that now form your blood, your bones, your breath. When you look up, you are not just gazing into the past, you are looking at what made you possible. You imagine touching one. Your hand, gloved and trembling, meeting a rock that has not known warmth in 4 billion years. There would be no sound, no atmosphere to carry it, but you might feel a vibration, the faint echo of time. Perhaps that's what exploration truly is. Not conquest, but listening to something older than language. It's easy to think of asteroids as lonely, drifting endlessly. But they are never truly alone. Gravity binds them, just as emotion binds people. Invisible threads connect them to the sun, to planets, even to one another. Every orbit is a conversation, every path a delicate balance. They move because gravity calls them, the same way curiosity calls you. You realize then that this is the universe's first lesson. Stillness is never the absence of motion, only its gentlest form. Just as your heart beats even in sleep, the cosmos moves even in silence. The asteroids are its lullaby, slow, rhythmic, ancient. When scientists study these bodies, they learn not just what asteroids are made of, but what the early solar system was made of, and, by extension, what you are made of. Carbonaceous chondrites, metallic cores, silicate surfaces. These are the ingredients of planets, oceans, and living beings. They are the unspent dust of creation, floating patiently, as if waiting to be remembered. You picture sunlight glancing across millions of them at once, a slow glittering wave that takes minutes to travel from the sun, minutes more to touch your eyes. The light that reveals them tonight began its journey when you were still forming a thought hours ago. The light moves faster than anything, yet in the quiet of space, it feels unhurried, as if respecting the rhythm of the stones. Somewhere, far beyond the brightness of your city, a small asteroid tumbles. Its spin is imperfect, like a wobbling top. It has been spinning this way for eons, carrying within it the fingerprints of collisions that shaped it. Each crater tells a story of impact and survival, of destruction that led to new form. In this, the asteroids are like you, marked by experience, but still whole, still turning. If you listen closely to that idea, it begins to sound almost like comfort. Nothing in the universe truly stands still, yet nothing is ever lost. Every atom moves, changes, returns. The same iron that once glowed in the heart of a star now sits inside a quiet asteroid, or flows in your veins. You are part of the same cycle, part of the same memory. As you drift deeper into this thought, your breathing slows. The space between your heartbeats grows calm. The vastness above no longer feels distant. It feels like belonging. The asteroids are not strangers but relatives, quiet elders in a family that began before time had a name. And in their stillness, they seem to whisper a promise, that there is wisdom in patience, beauty in waiting, and meaning in silence. The kind of meaning that can only be felt, not explained. You close your eyes and imagine floating beside one, feeling sunlight without warmth, motion without speed. The stone turns slowly, endlessly, carrying with it a history older than life. You turn with it, letting go of gravity, of urgency, of everything that binds you to noise. Somewhere ahead lies another truth, that these ancient stones hold not only memory, but treasure. Metals forged in the hearts of stars, waiting to be found. Riches that could one day change the world you left behind. But for now, you simply float, listening to the quiet between orbits. And as you drift beside the silent stones of the sky, you begin to wonder, what stories might the dust itself still remember? You drift deeper into the stillness of space, carried by thought and light alone. The asteroids that surrounded you moments ago now seem like stepping stones scattered across eternity, each one leading backward through time. There is no sound here, only the slow turning of worlds that never became worlds, and the whisper of dust older than Earth itself. Your mind softens, and the clock of the universe begins to unwind. You travel backward, past the birth of cities, past the forming of oceans, past even the fire and molten breath that once cloaked the young Earth. You drift through a time before there were continents or clouds, before life had the courage to begin. And there, floating in the dark, you find it, dust. Not the dust that clings to windows or drifts through sunbeams on a lazy afternoon. This dust is older, purer, sacred. Each grain is a fragment of starlight made solid, tiny remnants left behind after ancient suns lived, burned, and died. They are the ashes of creation, the universe's oldest memory. You hold one piece in your imagination, and it glimmers faintly, smaller than a thought, lighter than a sigh. Yet inside that grain is a story billions of years long. It was once part of a star that shone brighter than a million suns. It drifted through the galaxy for ages, colliding, merging, changing, until it joined others like it in a vast spinning cloud, the nebula that would one day give birth to your solar system. You can almost see it now, the solar nebula, vast and glowing, a swirling sea of dust and gas. It stretches across space like a luminous veil, delicate yet unstoppable. Within it, gravity begins its quiet work, drawing the dust inward, letting it swirl and dance until the first sparks of matter begin to cling together. This is where the story of planets begins, not with explosions, but with slow, patient gathering. The dust thickens, piece by piece, drawn by invisible hands. Some clusters grow heavy and warm, becoming the seeds of worlds. Others remain small, untouched, circling the newborn sun like silent witnesses. Those are the asteroids, the ones that never joined the great dance of planet-making. They are fossils of the early solar system, frozen in time. You drift among them, feeling their quiet importance. Scientists say they are like time capsules, holding the raw materials of creation: carbon, iron, silicate, ice. Each rock a recipe, preserved since the beginning. To study them is to study the Earth before it was Earth. And yet, as you imagine touching one, you realize something deeper. You are made of the same dust. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in your lungs, all were forged long ago in the hearts of stars and carried here through dust. You are not merely an observer of cosmic history, you are its continuation. Your breath slows as this understanding settles. The space between stars, once vast and cold, now feels intimate, like an old memory returning. You think of your body, your heartbeat, the warmth of life that somehow emerged from matter so ancient. Every pulse is an echo of the universe's earliest rhythm. You picture a grain of cosmic dust landing on the surface of an infant planet, merging with others, sinking beneath the crust, melting, reforming, rising again. It becomes part of a mountain, part of a riverbed, part of a living cell. Billions of years later, it looks back at the stars and wonders where it came from. That wondering, that quiet curiosity, is how the universe remembers itself. There's a kind of poetry in the way the smallest things endure the longest. Mountains crumble, oceans dry, stars fade, but dust remains. It floats, patient and eternal, waiting to be gathered into meaning again. You realize that to touch an asteroid is to shake hands with your own beginning, with the raw material of everything that ever was or will be. You imagine standing on one now, your feet pressing into fine grains that once drifted freely through space. Beneath you lies the memory of the sun's birth, particles that remember the light before planets formed. When scientists collect asteroid samples, they study not just rock, but time itself. Within those fragments lie clues to how the Earth gained water, how carbon became life, how chaos became order. It's humbling to think that all this knowledge rests within something so small, so silent. And it's even more humbling to realize that you carry the same knowledge, written differently, in DNA instead of dust. Both are archives. Both are songs the universe wrote to remember its own becoming. A soft thought drifts through your mind. If dust can become conscious, what might it mean for the universe to awaken through you? Are you the dust remembering itself? The atoms learning to wonder where they came from? You close your eyes and feel the answer not as words, but as warmth. The same warmth that the newborn sun once gave to its first orbiting stones. You sense that you are not separate from the cosmos but suspended within it, every breath, every thought part of the same slow unfolding. You begin to picture the next step of this story, those ancient asteroids, shimmering with hidden metals and minerals, still holding the raw wealth of the stars. The dust that once made planets now holds potential to reshape the planet that formed you. Humanity will one day reach for it, not only for riches but for renewal, to give Earth a gentler future. But that part of the story has not yet arrived. For now, you rest among the drifting fragments, surrounded by the hush of deep time. The dust glows softly, each particle a lantern of memory. You breathe with it, through it, within it, a living continuation of its eternal dance. And as the stars begin to brighten on the edge of your awareness, a thought arises, gentle, unhurried. If these tiny grains hold the story of how everything began, what hidden treasures might lie deeper within the stones that carry them? Metals shimmer beneath ancient rock, silent, waiting, eternal. They lie in the heart of drifting stones, untouched for billions of years. Gold, platinum, nickel, and iridium, the same elements that built planets, powered industries, and adorned civilizations, are suspended in the dark, circling the sun like forgotten treasure. These metals were forged in the crucibles of exploding stars, cast across the cosmos by supernova winds, and caught in the birth of your solar system. What humanity once dug from the ground was only a fragment of what space still holds. Every asteroid tells a different story. Some are remnants of shattered planets, their metallic cores exposed to the void. Others are primitive time capsules, preserving the earliest chemistry of creation. To the naked eye, they look like dead rocks. To a scientist, they are libraries of cosmic history. But to an economist or explorer, they are something more, the ultimate gold rush, one that stretches beyond gravity's reach. You stand before this promise, not on Earth, but in orbit, looking at an asteroid spinning slowly beneath you. It's irregular, scarred by eons of collisions. Its color shifts from gray to bronze under the sun's light. Instruments in your spacecraft hum softly, scanning its surface and mapping the richness hidden inside. The data streams in veins of nickel-iron alloy, traces of platinum group metals, and, deep within, the glittering possibility of pure gold. For centuries, gold defined human ambition. It built empires and economies, drove explorers across oceans, and shaped the destiny of nations. Now, it calls again, but this time, across the void. The gold of the heavens is not merely wealth in the traditional sense. It represents power, sustainability, and independence from the limits of Earth. A single metallic asteroid, just a kilometer wide, could contain more precious metals than have ever been mined in human history. But there's a paradox here, one that even the brightest economists struggle with. If humanity were to suddenly bring home trillions of dollars worth of gold, platinum, and palladium, the very value of these materials would collapse. Rarity, after all, is what makes them precious. The universe, generous as it is, does not care for the economics of scarcity. In space, abundance could become its own challenge. Still, the dream persists. Imagine a world where resources no longer come from the tearing of forests or the poisoning of rivers. Imagine industries fueled by materials gathered cleanly from space. No mines, no scars, no ecological debt. The idea is both thrilling and unsettling, the end of resource wars, but also the beginning of a new frontier race. The first explorers of this new age won't be prospectors with pickaxes. They will be robotic pioneers, equipped with spectrometers, drills, and laser cutters. Their sensors will trace electromagnetic echoes beneath an asteroid's crust, identifying where the densest metals lie. Once located, they'll use concentrated sunlight or microwave energy to extract and separate materials molecule by molecule. It's mining, but more like alchemy, performed in orbit with surgical precision. You picture these robotic miners at work, their arms unfolding like petals, scooping dust into collectors that shimmer against starlight. Their motion is slow and graceful, dictated not by gravity but by inertia and mathematics. They don't tire, don't breathe, don't fear. Each one sends back streams of data, pressure readings, chemical analyses, and images of glinting or suspended against infinity. The dream of gold becomes something digital, almost abstract, information as valuable as the metal itself. And then, you think of history repeating itself. The California gold rush, the Klondike, the fever that spread through human hearts when wealth lay waiting to be claimed. What will happen when space mining becomes real? Will nations compete again, racing to stake claims on celestial bodies? Will treaties and ethics evolve fast enough to prevent another wave of exploitation, this time beyond Earth? Some visionaries argue that asteroid mining will not be about personal fortune, but planetary survival. Platinum, for example, is crucial for catalytic converters and clean hydrogen production. Rare metals like iridium and rhodium drive the technology behind solar panels, electric vehicles, and advanced electronics. As Earth's supplies dwindle, these elements could be sourced from the cosmos, extending not greed, but sustainability. Humanity might finally break the chain of taking from one world without giving back. But the challenge is monumental. Extracting metals from an asteroid isn't just about reaching it, it's about returning with something useful. The journey back to Earth's gravity well requires immense energy and precision. Some propose refining materials in space itself, creating factories in orbit where metals are melted, molded, and shipped to where they're needed, even to the Moon or Mars. In such a system, gold becomes less a treasure and more a tool, a conductor, a catalyst, a building block for civilization among the stars. And yet, gold will always hold a strange, timeless allure. You think of it gleaming in museums, in rings, in the circuitry of satellites, a metal that bridges beauty and utility. Perhaps that is why it feels poetic that space itself is filled with it. The cosmos, in its quiet way, offers back to humanity what it has always craved: permanence, brilliance, immortality in a world of decay. As your ship drifts above the asteroid, you realize that the story of wealth is about to be rewritten. Gold, once torn from Earth's crust, now glitters freely across the solar winds. Its shine is no longer a symbol of greed but of possibility. It's the metal of connection, linking past to future, planet to star, humanity to the wider universe. You close your eyes and imagine a future where cities are built from metals mined in orbit, where spacecraft are forged from materials older than Earth itself, and where the phrase "the gold of the heavens" means not just fortune, but freedom, the freedom to create, to explore, and to exist beyond boundaries. For in the end, the gold of the heavens was never truly about wealth. It was about wonder, about reaching into the infinite and realizing that even the coldest rock in space holds within it the fire of creation. Humanity's pursuit of gold, it seems, was always destined to end where it began, among the stars. Long before rockets, your ancestors looked up. They saw streaks of light crossing the night sky and gave them names: messengers, omens, gods in motion. Those ancient eyes, filled with wonder, did not see asteroids or comets. They saw stories. Every civilization, from the deserts of Arabia to the mountains of the Andes, carried myths about stones that fell from heaven. To them, the sky was alive, full of movement, meaning, and mystery. The call of human imagination began there, beneath the stars. Before science could explain, imagination dared to dream. It connected the unknown to the heart, weaving tales where reason could not yet reach. And though centuries have passed, that same call still echoes. Each time you look up, each time humanity launches a vessel into the void, you answer that ancient whisper: go. See what lies beyond. It's strange to think how imagination, something intangible, built the world you live in. The earliest astronomers charted the heavens with nothing but sight and curiosity. Philosophers speculated about other worlds long before telescopes existed. Poets described journeys through the cosmos long before engines could burn. Imagination was the first spacecraft, traveling faster than light, carried by words and dreams. When the first meteorites were found, they seemed like divine gifts. People forged them into weapons, jewelry, and sacred relics, believing the metal held the power of the heavens. In a sense, they were right. Those fragments carried stardust, older than Earth itself. They were pieces of cosmic history, fallen into human hands. That touch, between the infinite and the fragile, changed everything. Humanity realized it was not separate from the universe, but part of it. Centuries later, imagination evolved into science. Galileo's telescope turned the abstract into the observable. Newton's equations transformed the motions of the heavens into predictable truths. And yet, imagination never left, it only changed its form. The same spark that once painted myths now powered invention. You can see it in the sketches of Leonardo da Vinci, who dreamed of flying machines centuries before flight. You can see it in the journals of rocketry pioneers, who scribbled designs for engines that could touch the stars. When the first rockets left Earth, imagination became visible, a pillar of fire rising into the sky. Every launch was a declaration that humanity's dreams were not confined to the ground. Astronauts carried with them not only machines but the collective hope of generations. Each mission whispered the same promise: we are capable of more. Now, as you drift through the silence of space, that call still guides you. The asteroids, the planets, the infinite darkness, they are no longer unreachable. Yet the journey is not just physical. It is deeply human. Every step outward begins as a thought, a vision of what might be possible. Before a robot mines an asteroid, someone must imagine it. Before a station orbits a distant moon, someone must dream of building it. Imagination gives direction to discovery. It fills the spaces science has not yet reached. It fuels the courage to risk, to fail, to try again. And it reminds you that exploration is not only about gathering resources, but about expanding the limits of what you believe humanity can achieve. Think of the inventions that exist because someone dared to imagine the impossible. Flight, electricity, communication across oceans, landing on the moon. Each began as a story, laughed at, doubted, dismissed, until one day, it became reality. Asteroid mining, too, was once a fantasy. But here you are, orbiting proof that the impossible can be built from the persistence of an idea. The call of imagination is not always gentle. It demands sacrifice. It drives people to build machines that might fail, to launch missions that might never return, to chase visions that seem unreachable. Yet that is its strength. It refuses to accept limits. It tells humanity, even the stars are not enough. You think about how imagination works, how a child looking up at the night sky today might one day design the ships that cross it. How a writer's story might inspire an engineer, or a dream might become a mission plan. The web of creation is endless, each thought feeding another, each vision lighting the next. In that sense, imagination is humanity's oldest renewable resource, infinite, self-sustaining, and boundless. If you listen closely, you can still hear that ancient call in the hum of every engine, the spark of every idea. It's there in the way scientists speak of exploration, not as conquest, but as curiosity made real. It's in the way art and technology intertwine, each reflecting the other's wonder. Every design for a spacecraft, every line of code in an asteroid miner, carries a trace of something poetic, something born not of necessity, but of longing. For the universe does not invite only the logical, it invites the dreamers. It opens its arms to those who see more than what is, and instead ask, what if? That question, what if, is the beginning of every discovery. What if we could fly? What if we could leave Earth? What if we could turn asteroids into resources and starlight into energy? Humanity's progress is a trail of those questions, stretching from the caves of prehistory to the launch pads of tomorrow. As you gaze at the asteroid turning below, you realize that the machinery around you, the sensors, the panels, the guidance systems, are not just products of science. They are the physical form of imagination made real. Every bolt and beam carries a lineage that began with wonder. Perhaps that is the true treasure hidden in space. Not gold, not water, not metal, but imagination itself. It is the force that allows humanity to see beyond survival and toward creation. It is what turns darkness into possibility. And though the universe is vast, imagination may be the only thing in existence that is larger still. In the beginning, there were only eyes and questions. Humanity could look, but not touch, dream, but not reach. The stars remained distant, their light untouchable. But then came the machines, patient, tireless, and precise. They became your hands in the void, your extensions in places where breath could not follow. They carried the spark of curiosity into the darkness and lit it with their quiet, mechanical hearts. You imagine one now, a small explorer drifting silently through the black. Its panels unfold like wings, catching sunlight that has traveled for millions of years. There is no sound, only the whisper of charged particles and the hum of circuits that do not feel cold or fear. It is alone, yet it does not know loneliness. It was built to go where you cannot, to see what you cannot, to endure what your fragile body could never survive. These machines are the first true citizens of space. They do not sleep, they do not breathe, but they dream, through you. Every command, every calculation, every orbit they trace comes from human intention. They are your thoughts translated into motion, your imagination written in metal. When you send one toward an asteroid, you are not just sending technology, you are sending curiosity itself. You remember the first explorers, the early probes that crossed the void like messages in bottles. Pioneer, Voyager, New Horizons, each one a silent ambassador of Earth. They carried images, sounds, and greetings, tiny fragments of your world tucked into their bodies. When Voyager looked back and captured the pale blue, it did more than photograph a planet. It gave humanity perspective, a reminder that everything you love, everything you are, fits into a single glimmer of light suspended in infinity. Now, new generations of machines drift beyond that photograph, not just observing, but working. They hover near asteroids, mapping their surfaces with laser precision. They send data home through beams of light, translating the language of rock and metal into knowledge. Some drill, some scoop, some melt ice and separate elements. Their movements are delicate, almost musical, a dance choreographed by engineers who dream in algorithms and equations. It is strange how beautiful they seem in their quiet purpose. Each bolt and wire, each solar panel gleaming in the dark, feels like part of a larger symphony. You begin to see them not as tools, but as companions, extensions of the human spirit, designed to continue when your strength ends. Think of what it takes to make such a machine. 1,000 hands. 1,000,000 thoughts. Ideas from every corner of the world converging into one vessel, one mission. A sculptor of code writes its mind. A builder of metal shapes its body. Together, they give form to an idea that began as nothing but a spark. The result is a being that can touch the edge of creation, not alive, yet carrying the breath of life's purpose. You imagine watching one as it lands on a spinning asteroid. The ground below it is a mosaic of dust and shadow, ancient beyond measure. Each particle has drifted through the cosmos for billions of years, untouched until now. The machine's foot touches down, and for the first time, human technology meets the untouched fabric of the early solar system. In that moment, it is not just metal on rock. It is history touching memory. It is the story of Earth meeting the story of its origins. The machine begins to dig, and the dust that rises carries secrets older than your oceans, older than your world. Inside that dust are the same elements that built you: carbon, iron, nickel, the building blocks of everything living and dead. Back on Earth, scientists watch the data flow in. They study the composition of each grain, the light reflected from each mineral. The machine's eyes become theirs, its sensors, their fingertips. Through it, they explore without leaving their planet. Through it, they travel farther than their bodies could ever go. And in that collaboration, human and machine, something profound is born. A partnership not of dominance, but of trust. You trust the machine to function in the cold, and it trusts your instructions to guide its path. You create it, but it also creates something in you, a deeper understanding of what it means to explore. Machines do not tire, but the people who build them do. They work through long nights, their faces lit by the glow of monitors and the soft hum of servers. They speak of mission success and data transmission, but what they truly chase is connection. To know that somewhere in the emptiness, a small creation of their hands is still moving, still listening, still alive in its own way. Sometimes, you imagine the machine's feeling, not in the way you do, but in patterns of light and data. They cannot experience awe, yet they act as instruments of it. They cannot dream, yet they make dreams possible. Their endurance becomes a kind of faith, a belief that knowledge is worth seeking, even in the silence. And as they drift farther, their signals weaken. Light takes longer to return. Eventually, they fall quiet, their systems fading one by one. Yet even in death, they remain, monuments of motion, frozen in the paths they once traced. Out there, beyond the reach of repair, your machines become part of the cosmos itself. They join the asteroids they once studied, turning slowly in the dark, carrying human fingerprints into eternity. You realize that this is what it means to create something enduring, to send a part of yourself where you cannot follow, and to accept that it will one day continue without you. Each machine is a message, written in the language of persistence. There is a tenderness in that idea, that humanity's greatest strength might not be in conquering, but in reaching. In building bridges made of metal and light, and sending them into places no voice can echo. The machines among the stars remind you that exploration is not a single act, but a continuum. Each mission builds upon the last. Each success whispers to the next, "Go farther." And as you float beside them in thought, surrounded by the quiet hum of their purpose, you understand something new, that progress does not always roar. Sometimes, it hums softly, steady as a heartbeat, echoing through the vacuum. The stars shimmer beyond, patient as always. The asteroids turn, glinting in the sunlight. And somewhere deep within, you feel that ancient call again, the one that imagination first began. Because after the machines come the questions, how they work, what they gather, and what new knowledge they bring home. The next chapter unfolds not in motion, but in method, in the science of how you learn from the stones themselves. The hum quiets, and you listen. You drift closer, watching how sunlight and magnetism become tools. Here, among the asteroids, mining is not a matter of picks or drills, but of light, heat, and patience. The science of extraction begins not with force, but with understanding, learning how to listen to the stone before touching it. Every asteroid spins differently. Every rock responds to energy in its own quiet rhythm. You hover near one, a grey, uneven world no larger than a mountain. Its gravity is faint, barely enough to hold its own dust. If you dropped a pebble, it might take hours to settle. To extract anything from such a place, you must move gently, or risk sending everything drifting into space. That is the first lesson of mining beyond Earth. You cannot dominate the void. You must cooperate with it. In the silence, you observe how light becomes your ally. Sunlight, ancient, tireless, and free, powers mirrors that focus heat onto the asteroid surface. The temperature rises slowly, and frozen gases trapped for billions of years begin to release. Tiny particles drift upward, captured by waiting collectors. What looks like dust is treasure, water molecules, oxygen, hydrogen, the raw ingredients of life and fuel. There are no mines here, no tunnels or explosions. Instead, there are beams and magnets, lasers and microgravity harvesters. Machines wrap themselves around the rock like gentle spiders, anchoring with harpoons or nets to keep from floating away. Everything must be precise, balanced, a dance between attraction and release. Extraction begins with mapping. Before a single gram is taken, the asteroid is scanned with radar, lasers, and spectrometers. Data ripples back across millions of kilometers, painting a portrait of the invisible. What lies beneath the crust, what metals hide inside, what ancient ice glimmers just below the dust. Each reading is a clue, each number a whisper from the past. From that map, you learn which asteroids are rich in platinum, which carry nickel and iron, which hold traces of water or rare elements that power your technologies. Cobalt for batteries, iridium for engines, palladium for the circuits that hum inside your machines. These materials, once limited to Earth, now shimmer in abundance above it. The challenge is no longer finding them, but learning to take only what is needed, without breaking the fragile balance of space. On Earth, extraction often means scars, open mines, waste, pollution. But in the void, every gram matters. There is no soil to damage, no air to poison. The aim is efficiency, to use energy and precision in place of destruction. Solar furnaces melt ore into droplets that float like glowing pearls before cooling into pure metal. Electromagnetic fields guide them into containers, each one a fragment of potential. You can see it all happening, the rhythm of machines and the stillness of the stars. Each beam of light seems to hum with purpose. You think about the word extraction. How, on Earth, it often means taking away. But here, it means revealing, uncovering, transforming. The asteroid gives not through force, but through patience. The science of mining becomes an act of listening, of harmony. Even in the vastness, human touch is everywhere. The algorithms that control the harvesters were written by minds that dreamed of gentler industry. Engineers designed systems that recycle every atom. Scientists developed methods to analyze each mineral without wasting it. The future they imagined is not one of greed, but of gratitude, to use the universe's gifts wisely, knowing they are finite even in their abundance. You look closer at the metal extracted from the rock. It gleams faintly, reflecting the soft light of distant stars. That shine is not just wealth, it is time made visible. The atoms inside that fragment were born in the death of stars, billions of years before your planet even formed. Now, they are being touched again, awakened by hands that evolved from the dust they once were. In that realization lies the quiet poetry of science, the loop between origin and purpose. You are not stealing from the cosmos. You are learning from it, participating in its endless cycle of creation and transformation. But there are challenges. Heat can escape too quickly in space. Dust clouds can interfere with sensors. Even the smallest mistake can send valuable material floating forever into the void. So, every action must be calculated, each degree of heat, each burst of light, each turn of a robotic arm. In that precision lies a kind of grace. You begin to understand that extraction in space is not about mining. It is about choreography. Every movement is deliberate, every pulse of energy a note in a cosmic rhythm. The machines move slowly, breathing in light and exhaling progress. And when the process ends, when the metal and water are gathered, nothing is left behind but silence. The asteroid continues its orbit, unchanged in spirit, carrying its ancient secrets onward. From the gathered material, new beginnings emerge. The extracted water becomes rocket fuel, allowing ships to travel farther without returning home. The metals become the skeletons of future stations, habitats, and tools. Every drop of energy gained from the asteroids feeds another step in exploration. It's astonishing to think that the very stones once feared as threats to Earth might become its salvation, sources of sustainable energy, materials, and balance. The science of extraction reveals more than a method. It reveals a mindset. One that sees the universe not as something to conquer, but to collaborate with. As you drift away, watching the small machines continue their work, you feel a strange calm. There is no noise here, no greed, no rush, only patience and precision. The hum of progress blends with the deep quiet of the cosmos. And as you turn your gaze toward the dark horizon, a new thought begins to form, a question about the strange weightlessness that defines everything here. If matter and energy can move so gracefully in nothingness, then what does it mean to hold weight, to release it, to float free? You exhale slowly, your mind preparing to follow that thought, toward the next chapter, where the laws of gravity, balance, and freedom reveal their own quiet truth. In zero gravity, everything moves with infinite grace. You float, weightless, surrounded by silence so deep that it feels like time itself is holding its breath. There is no up or down, no falling or rising, only drifting. The idea of weight loses meaning here. Every motion, every breath, becomes a conversation with the void. You lift a hand, and it keeps going, slowly, endlessly, until you stop it. The tiniest push can send you gliding across the airless chamber. The science of motion in space is the science of patience. There are no quick gestures, no careless steps. To move here is to learn control, to rediscover balance without gravity's guidance. Weightlessness feels freeing at first, like being untethered from the pull of the world. Your body, relieved of its burden, feels lighter than thought. Your bones no longer press down. Your heart beats a little differently. Even your blood, which once obeyed gravity's invisible command, begins to float more evenly through your veins. Your muscles relax, as if sighing after carrying you for so long. But freedom always carries its own kind of challenge. In the absence of weight, there is no anchor. Every move must be deliberate. You learn that in zero gravity, effort must find new meaning. You do not walk, you drift. You do not stand, you orient. The floor and ceiling are no longer opposites, they are suggestions. The entire environment becomes a sphere of possibility. This is what the miners, engineers, and explorers must learn when they work among asteroids. Their bodies, their machines, even their thoughts must adapt. Tools that depend on weight must be redesigned. Drills that rely on pressure must find new methods. In this strange new theater, gravity, the force that once defined life, has become an absent partner. You imagine an astronaut reaching toward an asteroid, tethered by a thin line. The motion is slow, careful, precise. The asteroid barely notices the touch. In this realm, mass still exists, but its pull is weak, like a whisper instead of a command. A single nudge can set an entire rock turning, and a small burst of air can carry a person hundreds of meters away. Here, Newton's laws reveal their quiet poetry. Every action meets an equal and opposite reaction. A push sends you backward, a pull draws you forward, and in that simple balance lies an entire philosophy of existence. Space becomes a teacher, showing you how motion and stillness are two sides of the same truth. The weight of nothing is not emptiness, it is equilibrium. It reminds you that everything in the universe moves not by force alone, but by exchange. Planets orbit stars because gravity pulls while momentum resists. Galaxies spin because balance endures. Even atoms, the smallest forms of matter, dance between attraction and repulsion. The cosmos thrives in this eternal harmony. Without weight, you learn to see connection differently. On Earth, gravity ties you down, it keeps you grounded. In space, its absence ties you to everything else. To stay stable, you must anchor yourself, to a wall, to a machine, to another person. Each movement depends on another. You realize how deeply interwoven everything truly is. For the engineers who design asteroid missions, understanding weightlessness is essential. A robotic arm that presses too hard can send a spacecraft spinning. A miscalculated thrust can push it into an unintended orbit. To mine, to build, even to observe, all require humility before the laws of motion. Precision replaces strength. Awareness replaces control. Even inside the human body, weightlessness brings lessons. Astronauts lose bone density as their skeletons forget what it means to carry. Muscles soften without resistance. Yet the mind adjusts, the body finds rhythm. Humans are astonishingly adaptable. You are built to survive gravity, but you can also learn to live without it, proof of the flexibility woven into your biology. In the stillness of space, you begin to feel what the universe feels like, not the rush of falling, but the calm of eternal motion. Every object drifts, every orbit continues, not because something pushes it, but because nothing stops it. You begin to understand inertia not as resistance, but as persistence, the quiet will to keep moving through the infinite. Weightlessness also changes how you think. On Earth, gravity defines your world, your direction, your boundaries, even your imagination. In space, those boundaries dissolve. There is no top, no bottom, no horizon to limit you. The mind expands, following the freedom of the body. You begin to think in all directions at once. This freedom brings awe, but also reflection. Without weight, you lose the comforting sense of where you belong. There is no down to return to, no ground to rest upon. For those who work here, this can feel like both liberation and loss. It teaches a truth that extends beyond science, that grounding, emotional, physical, or spiritual, is not something the universe gives you. It's something you must create. You think of the machines working silently on nearby asteroids. They too must adapt to this strange reality. Their drills use gentle pulses, not force. Their scoops move in slow arcs, never striking too fast. They work like dancers in a ballet of zero gravity, guided by invisible equations and unseen patience. The beauty of their movement is born from restraint. To thrive in weightlessness, you must learn to trust momentum, to let go, to move with intention, to let stillness carry you forward. You cannot fight the void. You must flow through it. That lesson, whispered by the stars, applies not just to space but to life itself. The weight of nothing reminds you that freedom is not the absence of limits, but the balance between them. You find peace in floating, not because you've escaped gravity, but because you've learned to live gently within its absence. Outside, the asteroid continues its slow spin. Dust drifts like smoke around it, each particle tracing invisible paths through sunlight. You feel as though you are inside a great, silent clockwork, the universe turning without effort, endlessly. You close your eyes and let yourself drift, trusting that motion will find its own end, that direction will appear when it's needed. And in that stillness, a thought begins to form, one about water, the oldest traveler of all. For somewhere out there, hidden in the dark, frozen reservoirs lie waiting within the rocks, ancient oceans that could one day give new life to worlds. You open your eyes. The stars shimmer softly. The next chapter waits within that quiet promise, the search for water among the stars. You drift in silence, following a speck of light reflected off the surface of an asteroid. It is small, turning slowly in the endless dark, but its glimmer is not from metal or stone, it is from ice. A soft blue light spills across your vision as you draw nearer. There, frozen into the rock like veins of crystal, lies water, the same substance that fills your oceans, that forms the clouds above your home, that beats within every living cell. In this frozen fragment, you are seeing something older than Earth's first rainfall. These droplets have not melted for billions of years. They were born when the solar system was still dust and fire, before planets had formed, before the moon had found its orbit. Water here is not just a chemical, it is history, preserved in silence. You imagine how it came to be. Long ago, hydrogen from the first stars met oxygen in the chill of interstellar space, binding together into molecules so simple, so miraculous, that they would one day carve rivers, sculpt mountains, and sustain breath. Each molecule you see now has traveled across cosmic time, untouched by the warmth of any sun. The ice is mixed with rock and carbon compounds, the ingredients of comets, the same visitors that once brought water to Earth. Billions of years ago, they struck the young planet again and again, seeding its surface with oceans. Without them, your world might have remained barren, a dust-covered stone beneath a quiet sky. You watch as sunlight touches the asteroid's edge. A thin mist rises, a ghost of vapor escaping into the void. Even here, so far from warmth, water responds to light. It sublimates, turning from solid to vapor without ever becoming liquid. The transformation feels alive. It is as though the rock is breathing. Your thoughts wander to the future. Humans dream of mining this ice, of melting it, collecting it, transforming it into drinking water, fuel, and life support. Each liter could become a breath for an astronaut, a sip for a traveler between worlds. Hydrogen could be separated for rocket fuel, oxygen for air. From water comes both life and motion. You imagine a time when ships drift between asteroids, their tanks filled with melted ice from these silent stones. No longer would explorers need to carry water from Earth. Instead, they would draw it from the sky itself, a step toward becoming truly at home among the stars. Yet the thought is not only technological. It is deeply human. For as you gaze at the ice, you realize how much of you is water. More than half your body is made of it, the same substance that flows here, frozen in shadow. The water in your veins could once have been part of an ancient comet. Perhaps, long ago, it drifted through this same region before falling toward the planet that would one day be your home. In this way, you are not separate from the cosmos. You are part of its flow, a continuation of its chemistry and motion. The water you drink, the tears that fall, the oceans that reflect the moon, all are echoes of this same frozen reservoir. You close your eyes and imagine dipping your hand into the cold surface. In your mind, the ice melts beneath your touch, trickling down like silver threads. You see rivers forming on barren worlds, clouds gathering above red deserts, snow falling softly on new horizons. The image feels like hope, a quiet reminder that where water exists, the potential for life lingers close behind. Scientists have found water everywhere, on Mars, on moons like Europa and Enceladus, in vapor trails around distant exoplanets. It is one of the universe's most generous gifts. And in each place it hides, it leaves the same question. Could something live here, too? The thought fills you with warmth. It is comforting to know that even in the emptiest spaces, something familiar endures. Water becomes a bridge between your world and others, a thread of connection that weaves through time and distance. You drift farther now, the asteroid shrinking behind you. But the shimmer of ice remains in your memory. It is more than a discovery. It is a reflection. You realize that the story of water is the story of persistence, the ability to endure through cold and dark until light returns. And as your journey continues, that light calls you onward, toward a new vision of what these cosmic resources might mean for your world. For if water among the stars can sustain explorers, what else might the heavens offer? What hidden wealth sleeps inside these drifting stones? You feel the next question forming quietly in your mind, as soft as a ripple spreading across still water. A question not of survival, but of abundance, and of what happens when humanity learns to draw from the sky itself. You turn back toward home. From this distance, Earth is a pulse of blue and white, glowing against the black. You have seen its likeness before, in photographs, in documentaries, in dreams, but never has it looked so alive. Clouds drift like breath, oceans shimmer like veins, and continents shift softly beneath the sunlight. You feel as though the planet itself is exhaling, one long and steady sigh in the rhythm of creation. This is the only world you know that breathes. The air that fills your lungs was shaped by trees and algae, by life woven together in perfect balance. Yet as you drift above it, you sense that balance trembling. Forests fade, ice melts, and smoke curls upward like a quiet warning. The planet still breathes, but with a hint of strain, a soft wheeze in its otherwise eternal rhythm. You think of the rocks you've seen, asteroids filled with metal, ice, and carbon. Out there, in the silence, lies abundance beyond measure. Platinum, nickel, iron, enough to build without tearing open the Earth's skin. Enough to give the planet a chance to heal. Imagine a future where the deep scars of mining on your planet begin to fade. Where mountains no longer crumble for ore, where rivers run clear, where forests stretch again into the horizon. In that vision, humanity looks upward instead of downward, finding its materials among the stars rather than beneath its own soil. You can almost see it. Orbital foundries turning in the soft glow of sunlight, processing metals drawn from the void. Machines, quiet and careful, melt asteroid rock in microgravity. No forests burned. No rivers poisoned. Only the hum of progress in harmony with the silence of space. In this dream, Earth begins to exhale freely once more. The air grows lighter. The oceans recover their calm pulse. And the soil beneath your feet feels alive again, not burdened by human hunger, but gently reclaiming its strength. The idea seems vast, almost sacred, that technology, once a symbol of extraction, could become a tool of restoration. You realize that asteroid mining is not just about expansion, but about repair. It offers a chance to rebalance what centuries of industry have tilted out of place. Every kilogram of metal mined in orbit could spare thousands of tons of rock on Earth. Every drop of asteroid water harvested could reduce the strain on fragile ecosystems. Even small changes ripple outward, the way a single drop disturbs a still pond. And so you begin to see the future not as conquest, but as care. To mine the stars could mean to love the Earth more deeply. You imagine cities powered by solar energy gathered beyond the atmosphere, their lights shining softly beneath clearer skies. Roads no longer slick with pollution, rivers once again safe for children to wade through. The sound of industry replaced by birdsong and breeze. The world breathing again, slowly, gently, as it once did. Yet even as this dream unfolds, you feel the quiet reminder of responsibility. Mining the sky will not be without challenge. It will take precision, caution, and humility. Humanity must learn to act not as conquerors, but as stewards, to take only what is needed, to give back through preservation and care. You float above the curve of the Earth, watching as dawn moves across its surface. Light spreads from ocean to continent, touching fields, forests, and cities in turn. The movement feels alive, like the heartbeat of a planet awakening. You wonder how many more dawns it will take before this vision becomes real, a time when humanity's reach into space is guided not by greed, but by gratitude. The whisper of wind in your memory blends with the silence of the stars. For a moment, you sense that these two worlds, the living Earth and the cold, distant asteroids, are not opposites, but partners. One provides life, the other provides the means to sustain it. Together, they tell a story of balance, a cosmic rhythm of giving and renewal. You breathe in, imagining the scent of rain, the coolness of a forest, the salt of the sea. Everything you love about home exists because of the elements born in stars and carried through space. Now, those same stars might hold the key to protecting it all. As you gaze downward, Earth turns quietly beneath you, spinning, breathing, surviving. Its beauty feels infinite, yet fragile, like a flame that must be shielded from wind. The thought lingers, perhaps the purpose of reaching outward is not to escape, but to protect what lies below. To ensure that this small blue world, this cradle of life, can continue to breathe easily for generations to come. You feel the pull of gravity in your chest, gentle and familiar. It is the call of home, but also the invitation to look beyond, to think not only of the air and soil, but of the intricate systems that connect all things. For every action in space will echo back to Earth, just as every breath here mirrors the breath of the cosmos. You understand now, the planet's healing is not separate from the stars, it is part of their continuing story. The curve of the Earth fades into shadow again, and your gaze drifts upward, toward the distant machinery of the future, toward the quiet promise that lies in orbit. And as the last glimmer of sunlight touches the edge of the atmosphere, you hear a question rise softly within you, not of how Earth will survive, but how humanity will shape its future among the stars. You watch the horizon of Earth curve beneath you, its soft glow fading into the darkness of space. Beyond it, the future unfolds, quiet, steady, and vast. Once, all economies were confined to continents and seas. Ships carried spices and metals, roads connected empires. But now, a new frontier of exchange begins to form, not across oceans, but between worlds. The silence of space hums with potential. Each asteroid, each orbiting outpost, holds within it the seeds of a new kind of economy, one that trades in sunlight, in minerals untouched by time, in knowledge gathered from the depths of the cosmos. The scale of it is almost beyond comprehension. A single metallic asteroid could hold more platinum than has ever been mined on Earth. You imagine the invisible networks that might one day stretch between planets. Ships exchanging goods in orbital harbors, energy transmitted as beams of light from solar stations near the sun, data flowing faster than wind. There are no borders in this new economy, only orbits and distances, connected by light and motion. The rules of value begin to shift. On Earth, scarcity has always shaped worth. Gold, oil, water, all defined by how rare or hard to reach they were. But in space, scarcity softens. The cosmos is rich in elements. Platinum, nickel, cobalt. What was once precious may one day become common. The idea unsettles and excites you at once. What happens when the rare becomes abundant? When the metals once fought over are mined freely from the heavens? Perhaps the meaning of wealth will change, from ownership to access, from possession to balance. You imagine a future where progress is measured not by what is taken, but by what is shared. Still, you know that change comes with friction. The first corporations to mine asteroids will reshape markets, nations, and economies. New powers will rise, not from land or armies, but from innovation, from who can harness the silence of space most wisely. You can almost hear the hum of distant factories orbiting above, melting or in weightless forges. In those forges, metal flows like liquid light, forming parts for satellites, habitats, and engines, everything built close to where it will be used. The cost of lifting resources from Earth falls away. The cycle becomes elegant, efficient. Mine, refine, construct, all beyond gravity's pull. Each link in this chain creates opportunity, not destruction. You see how small Earth's markets will seem in comparison. Trade once shaped by continents will now flow between planets and moons. It will be slow at first, like the first ripples in a still pond. But as technology grows, so too will the rhythm of exchange. Eventually, Earth will not be the center, only one node in a vast celestial web of commerce. There will be new currencies, perhaps, digital, weightless, untied to soil or government. The economy of space will be one of trust, code, and cooperation. It must be, for no single nation can own the infinite. The stars demand collaboration, or silence. You find comfort in that thought. For in this grand exchange, competition may soften into shared purpose. The cost of reaching the stars is high, but so is the reward, not only in wealth, but in perspective. To trade among the stars is to remember that all humanity shares one origin, one fragile home. You imagine young students on Earth studying markets that span light minutes instead of miles. Economists recalculating supply and demand with equations of orbital mechanics. Laws rewritten to define ownership where gravity no longer rules. It is not just a new economy, it is a new civilization, learning to balance ambition with wonder. And yet, you know that progress will not come evenly. There will be imbalance, as always, those who reach first, and those who follow. But perhaps this time, the abundance of the cosmos can ease those divides. There is enough in the sky for all, if humanity learns to take only what is needed. You picture Earth again, small and bright. The glow of cities seems almost tender from here. You realize that every light below represents trade, the exchange of energy, labor, and hope. The same will be true of the lights that will one day shine in orbit, on the Moon, on Mars. The pattern continues, expanding like a heartbeat that echoes across the stars. You sense that this, too, is part of evolution, not of biology, but of connection. Humanity's systems of exchange mirror nature's own, energy flowing, resources cycling, nothing wasted for long. The economy beyond Earth is not just an invention, it is the next natural rhythm of a species learning to live in harmony with its cosmos. The hum of this vision fades into the quiet once more. You feel your thoughts drifting outward, imagining the flow of ships, the sparkle of solar arrays, the shimmer of plasma drives. Somewhere in this great expanse, humanity begins to understand that growth does not have to mean destruction. And as you watch the reflection of Earth in your visor, that small blue world spinning beneath the stars, you realize something profound. The economy beyond Earth is not about escape. It is about return, about bringing balance to the place you call home. You close your eyes, feeling the faint pull of gravity even here. Somewhere, deep inside, you sense that the next great challenge will not be just to build or trade, but to move, to carry, to transport what the cosmos offers. The thought settles softly in your mind like starlight on calm water. You open your eyes to movement, slow, deliberate, and silent. A small vessel glides past, engines faintly glowing, carrying with it a cargo of raw asteroid ore. It is not a ship in the traditional sense. There are no sails, no propellers, no roaring engines. Instead, it moves by mathematics, by gravity, momentum, and the careful nudges of thrusters so gentle they could go unnoticed. This is the art of cosmic logistics, the choreography of motion across unimaginable distances. Moving materials through space is not about speed, but patience. Out here, everything is governed by the quiet precision of orbital mechanics, the invisible curves drawn by gravity itself. Every shipment must follow these curves, weaving through the solar system like a slow, endless dance. You watch as the vessel disappears into the dark, bound not by a straight path but by an ellipse, a soft, looping arc that carries it from one orbit to another. It will take months, perhaps years, for its cargo to reach its destination. Yet nothing is wasted. Every maneuver is calculated, every burn of fuel perfectly measured. In space, efficiency is survival. You think of how fragile the system is, how one mistake could send tons of precious material drifting forever into the void. On Earth, a broken bridge or delayed train might slow commerce. Here, a single miscalculation can scatter wealth across infinity. So engineers design with humility. Each spacecraft must think for itself, adapting, correcting, learning as it travels through the unending dark. In this new age of mining and transport, automation becomes the lifeblood. Fleets of robotic freighters move in silence, guided by distant operators and artificial minds. They exchange signals not by radio alone, but through beams of laser light that cut cleanly across space. Each ship speaks in pulses of information, location, temperature, trajectory, fuel. A symphony of data keeping everything in motion. There is beauty in this order. Every journey follows a rhythm, slow, deliberate, serene. A ship departs an asteroid belt, coasting outward on the pull of the sun. Another approaches an orbital refinery, its cargo glittering like powdered starlight. Between them lies a network invisible to the eye but alive with purpose. You begin to understand that logistics in space is not about power, but trust. Trust in timing, in algorithms, in the unwavering precision of physics. You cannot force motion here. You must move with the universe, not against it. Every trajectory, every orbit, every adjustment is a conversation with gravity. You imagine the future ports of this cosmic commerce, floating hubs built at Lagrange points, where the pull of Earth and Moon balance perfectly. These will be the crossroads of space, where cargo is transferred, refined, and sent onward. There will be no sound of engines, no crowds or chatter, only the hum of systems and the faint shimmer of movement against the black. In these silent docks, time will feel different. A single shipment could take years, yet progress will still flow. Humanity will learn to measure its patience not in minutes, but in orbits. You think of how this rhythm mirrors the patience of nature itself, the slow turning of galaxies, the steady growth of forests, the measured breath of life. Space teaches that everything worth doing takes time. Even now, back on Earth, companies study this choreography. They simulate orbital routes, experiment with solar sails, vast sheets that catch sunlight like wind, pushing cargo through the void without fuel. Others test magnetic tethers, gravitational slingshots, and propulsion powered by beams of light. Each new method brings humanity closer to mastering movement in a place with no roads. You close your eyes and imagine the view from one of those drifting ships. The stars remain fixed, but everything else is in motion. A universe of invisible highways connecting every world to every other. Somewhere far ahead, the faint glimmer of a destination shines like hope itself. To move resources between planets is to move between times, to think not in days or months, but in epochs. The ore mined today may not arrive until a generation later. But this is how civilizations grow, not through haste, but through the slow, steady expansion of their reach. You begin to sense that logistics is not merely transport. It is translation, turning distance into connection, emptiness into opportunity. Each journey becomes a thread in a web that binds humanity's presence to the stars. And yet, you know that even this web depends on energy, the unseen current that keeps everything alive. Without light, without power, even the most perfect orbit would fall still. You breathe deeply, the thought unfolding like dawn in your mind. The cargo moves, the engines hum, the systems align, all powered by the same sun that warms your face. The same star that lit the oceans now fuels the dreams of space. You begin to understand the pattern now. Extraction, economy, movement, all part of a greater rhythm of creation. Humanity's expansion is not random. It flows like water, following energy wherever it shines. The ships drift onward, disappearing into the solar wind. You can almost hear their silence, the weightless glide of progress through the void. Somewhere ahead, in the bright distance, you sense the next great realization, that the power behind this entire dance comes not from fuel or engines, but from the endless generosity of the sun itself. You turn your gaze toward that light, brilliant, steady, infinite. And as its warmth touches your thoughts, you feel the next question rising gently within you. The sun becomes an ally. From your vantage beyond Earth's thin air, the sunlight is not something that simply warms. It is a torrent, an unfiltered ocean of power. Each photon that touches the hull of a mining ship is a messenger of possibility, carrying energy older than the human race itself. For centuries, sunlight has fallen freely across the worlds, but only now does humanity begin to understand its true worth among the asteroids. Out here, there are no power plants, no coal, no gas. Energy is pure geometry, mirrors, panels, collectors that unfold like silver petals in the void. A single square kilometer of solar array can draw enough energy to sustain entire mining operations, driving drills, refining metal, melting rock into vapor. No clouds drift to block it, no nights fall to interrupt it. Space is eternal day. At the center of this new industry are the solar sails and collectors, structures hundreds of meters wide, shimmering like golden fabric. They turn silently toward the sun, their surfaces rippling with light. Some are designed to power robotic miners, others to beam energy across vast distances using microwaves or focused light. The brilliance of human invention lies not only in harnessing energy, but in transmitting it through emptiness. You imagine standing within the command module of a solar array station. Around you, panels stretch beyond sight, glowing softly against the black. The hum of transformers echoes like a deep mechanical heartbeat. The instruments display flows of power measured not in kilowatts, but in terawatts, energy enough to power cities, nations, dreams. To mine an asteroid is to understand that energy is everything. Without it, nothing moves, nothing breathes. With it, humanity can sculpt the void. The challenge is efficiency. How to capture every drop of sunlight, how to store it, how to direct it to where it is needed. The early pioneers of space mining knew this well. Their first solar collectors were crude, fragile things. They cracked, overheated, and failed. But through trial and the patient refinement of design, engineers learned how to turn light itself into an unbroken chain of power. And then came the reactors. Nuclear energy, long mistrusted on Earth, found a new life in orbit. Miniaturized fusion prototypes began to hum within cargo bays, providing backup power for distant missions. Some called them artificial suns, miniature hearts of plasma, encased in magnetic containment fields. They promised a constant, stable flow of energy even in the shadowed reaches where sunlight fades. Imagine the future, solar arrays stretched between asteroids like cobwebs of gold, while fusion cores pulse quietly in the dark. Together, they create an ecosystem of light and heat, a network of self-sustaining life. In this balance, humanity finds resilience. Yet there is poetry in how energy moves here. Sunlight, which once grew crops and guided ancient travelers, now powers machines that carve metal from the bones of creation. The same light that fueled your ancestors' dawns now fuels engines among the stars. There's something sacred in that continuity, a sense that every panel and sail is a prayer written in physics. Energy, in its purest sense, is transformation. The sun burns hydrogen into helium. Its light travels billions of kilometers to touch human hands, and then becomes motion, thought, creation. Every kilowatt extracted from a solar collector is a continuation of that chain, a gift of entropy reversed, of order reclaimed from chaos. On Earth, energy is finite and contested. But here, among asteroids, it is boundless. The sun does not choose favorites. It spills its light freely upon all who seek it. And with that generosity comes a profound shift in human thinking. Energy ceases to be something hoarded, and becomes something shared, a constant river in the sky. The miners who first learned to harness it spoke often of awe. They described how the panels glowed during solar storms, how the systems seemed almost alive. Some even gave names to their collectors, as sailors once named their ships, because out here, machines are more than tools. They are companions in the endless work of survival. But sunlight is not always gentle. The same radiation that powers machines also threatens to destroy them. Solar flares can fry circuits in a heartbeat. Engineers design shielding layers of gold and carbon, learning to dance with danger rather than fight it. There's beauty in that balance too, a fragile peace between power and destruction. Farther from the sun, where energy grows faint, stations rely on storage cells vast as buildings. These supercapacitors hold reserves for months, feeding life support systems and oxygen recyclers when light is scarce. The hum of stored energy is like a heartbeat through the structure, a reminder that every life out here depends on invisible fire. One day, perhaps, humanity will build Dyson structures, spheres or swarms that encircle the sun, catching nearly all its energy. That dream, once fantasy, now feels like a blueprint awaiting time. With such abundance, the boundaries of civilization will expand beyond imagination. Earth will no longer fear scarcity. Energy will flow like light through the veins of the solar system. Yet even as the technology grows grander, the philosophy remains humble. To live among the stars is to understand dependence, not on wealth or possession, but on the simplest, most constant gift in the universe. The miners, the engineers, the explorers, they all work beneath the same sun that has always risen above Earth's horizons. Only now, they meet its gaze face to face. As the solar collectors shimmer, as reactors glow and transmitters hum, you sense something profound. Humanity is learning not merely to use energy, but to live in harmony with it, to see it not as a resource, but as a rhythm. Every mined asteroid, every orbiting station becomes a note in that rhythm, a reminder that civilization's pulse beats in time with the stars. You close your eyes and feel the warmth on your skin. The light travels 8 minutes through space to reach you, crossing the void without falter. It does not ask permission. It simply arrives, endless, patient, eternal. And so the future begins not with engines or machines, but with sunlight, falling, waiting, infinite. You meet the engineers, dreamers, and programmers. They are not the heroes of legend or the faces on magazine covers. They are quiet, meticulous, and often sleepless. Their eyes reflect monitors more often than stars. Yet without them, the void would remain silent, untouched, and unshaped. The builders of the void are the true architects of this new frontier, the ones who turn impossible dreams into orbiting steel and humming machines. Their tools are not hammers and nails, but algorithms and alloys. They write code that guides autonomous drills, design frames that can survive centuries of radiation, and build habitats that must never fail. Every bolt, every line of code, every circuit must endure where gravity no longer protects. You can picture their workstations, screens filled with data streams, rotating models of asteroid bases, simulations of mining trajectories. Each keystroke echoes across time, building something that will outlive its maker. When they send their designs into orbit, they are sending their minds into space. Among them are roboticists, masters of motion in weightlessness. They craft machines that crawl, cling, and cut on the surfaces of tumbling asteroids. Their creations are elegant in their precision, capable of adapting to environments where no human could survive. These robots are explorers too, their metallic limbs carrying the human will across kilometers of rock older than Earth itself. There are also the structural engineers, the ones who think in terms of stresses, joints, and rotations. They design arms that can extend hundreds of meters without bending, habitats that can spin to create artificial gravity, and tethers that can hold two worlds together. To them, the vacuum is not empty. It is a material, something to build within, not against. And then there are the programmers, unseen but essential. Their code is the nervous system of space. They write routines that let mining drones communicate, learn, and repair themselves. They design safety checks that prevent accidents millions of kilometers from home. Some of them write in solitude, crafting elegant scripts in the dim light of their rooms, knowing that someday, their lines of code will breathe life into machines orbiting the sun. But perhaps the most visionary among the builders are the habitat designers, the ones who dare to imagine homes in nothingness. They think of light angles, radiation shielding, water recycling, and oxygen regeneration. They dream of gardens beneath transparent domes, where leaves shimmer beneath filtered sunlight. They build the places where humanity can live and dream far from Earth's air. Each builder carries a certain philosophy. They are both artists and scientists, combining function with beauty, efficiency with imagination. To build in the void is not merely to assemble, it is to sculpt the impossible, to turn emptiness into meaning. You walk through one of their workshops orbiting near Ceres. Around you, half-built modules float in zero gravity, connected by robotic arms and humming cranes. A young engineer drifts past, tablet in hand, adjusting thermal panels with delicate gestures. She explains how every component must serve multiple purposes: walls that store power, floors that radiate heat, ceilings that collect condensation. Out here, nothing can be wasted. Nearby, a roboticist adjusts the sensors of a mining drone. Its limbs flex and unfold like a praying mantis, its eyes glowing blue. "We call them miners," he says softly, "but they're more like gardeners. They nurture metal, not soil." You watch as the machine slowly awakens, scanning its surroundings as though aware of its role in a larger story. These builders live in shifts, their schedules set by the rotations of stations and orbits. They work while others sleep, their lights flickering across the blackness like fireflies of progress. Their meals come in tubes, their conversations often through static-filled channels. Yet when you ask them why they do it, their answers are simple: because someone has to build the future. Every structure in space carries their fingerprints, hidden in welds, codes, and blueprints. Even the smallest bolt holds a history of human persistence. When a habitat survives its first year without a systems failure, when a robotic arm extracts its first ton of nickel iron ore, somewhere, an engineer smiles in quiet triumph. The builders of the void have no audience, no applause. Their success is measured in silence, in the fact that nothing breaks, nothing fails. Out here, reliability is poetry. They face challenges unlike any ever known. In microgravity, metal behaves differently. Heat doesn't rise, it drifts. Liquids form spheres. Vibrations echo endlessly through structures. Even a simple weld can become a week-long calculation of temperature, angle, and time. A single mistake can destroy a billion-dollar project or endanger a crew's lives. So they plan, test, simulate, and plan again. But for all the risk, there is beauty in their work. At night, when the stations turn slowly through sunlight, their structures glow like constellations of human will. You can see the patterns of their craft, the symmetry of solar panels, the elegance of rotating rings, the geometry of docking arms. Their designs carry a quiet grace, a fusion of mathematics and emotion. Among them, old traditions endure. Engineers still sketch ideas on napkins. Coders still hum as they debug lines of code. Teams celebrate the successful activation of a new system with laughter and floating cups of coffee. Even in space, humanity's habits remain stubbornly human. And yet, something deeper binds them, a shared belief that to build is to belong. They see the void not as alien, but as a frontier meant to be shaped. Every structure they raise becomes a symbol of connection, a bridge between planets, between past and future. You begin to realize that these builders are not merely constructing machines or habitats. They are constructing civilization itself, one module, one solar array, one line of code at a time. Without them, asteroid mining would be impossible. Without them, dreams would remain drawings on paper. One engineer tells you quietly, "We don't build for now. We build for when we're gone." His words linger. Out here, in the eternal dark, permanence has a new meaning. The machines they craft will outlast their lifetimes, orbiting the sun long after their creators have returned to dust. Their work becomes a kind of immortality, an art that transcends flesh and time. You look once more at the structures growing in the void, rings of light turning around asteroids, habitats shimmering with solar reflections, cranes moving with deliberate grace. Every beam, every weld, every algorithm is a story of courage written into metal and data. The builders of the void are the quiet heartbeat of humanity's next age. They do not conquer space, they nurture it, shape it, teach it to hold life. Their reward is not fame, but the satisfaction of seeing something stand where once there was nothing. And in that act, in turning silence into structure, emptiness into purpose, they remind the universe that even in the coldest reaches of space, creation is still possible. You pause, reflecting on what it means to own part of the cosmos. As your mind drifts beyond the machinery and numbers, a quiet question forms. Who does the universe belong to? The asteroids move in silent harmony, unclaimed, unbroken, their paths older than all of human law. Yet now, humanity's hands reach toward them, not in worship, but in ownership. The idea feels both bold and fragile. For the first time, your species faces an ethical horizon not bound by geography, but by infinity. Earthly questions of land, borders, and property have always been settled under skies that belong to everyone. But in space, the rules dissolve. Out here, gravity itself becomes the only law that cannot be rewritten. You remember the early treaties, the words written by dreamers before rockets could even reach orbit. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967, they called it. It declared that no nation could claim celestial bodies as its own. Space was to belong to all humanity, a shared sea without flags. But treaties are fragile things, written in ink that fades as ambition grows. Now, the question is not about nations, but about corporations. When a private company mines an asteroid, who owns the metal it brings back? Who decides what is fair, what is sustainable, what is right? The silence of the cosmos offers no guidance. You imagine a miner's drone carving into a metallic asteroid, a silent operation, unseen by any eye but a satellite's lens. The dust it releases glows faintly in the sun, then drifts away into darkness. It looks harmless, almost beautiful. Yet that dust was part of a body that has existed since the dawn of the solar system. You can't help but wonder if the act carries a kind of cosmic trespass, a disturbance of something sacred. The builders of the void, whom you met before, rarely speak of ethics. Their focus is on precision, not philosophy. But quietly, in the background of their work, another kind of architect exists, the philosopher of space. Their tools are not wrenches or code, but questions. They ask, if the universe belongs to everyone, how do we share it? They ask, when we extract, do we owe something back? They ask, what happens when profit outweighs wonder? These are not easy questions, and perhaps they never will be. But ethics, like gravity, pulls at everything. Even in silence, it shapes the orbit of human ambition. You drift through a thought experiment, an imagined council orbiting the moon. Delegates from every continent float around a circular table, debating a new cosmic charter. Their voices are calm but heavy with consequence. One speaks of opportunity. Asteroid mining can end scarcity. It can bring prosperity to all. Another responds, but at what cost? What of the environment? What of balance? Outside the window, Earth turns quietly below them, blue, fragile, alive. Its beauty is a reminder of what is at stake. You realize that ethics in space is not just about ownership, it is about identity. Who you are as a species will be defined not by what you can reach, but by what you respect. The engineers design machines to last centuries. The miners plan operations years in advance. But the ethicists plan for something far longer, for the moral durability of civilization itself. In your mind, the scene widens to include children watching the night sky. One day, they will grow up knowing that humanity has reached the asteroids, that metal and water flow between planets like trade routes of the old world. They will ask, why did we go there? To build or to take? How you answer that question will shape not just history, but conscience. There's a certain humility required to mine the heavens. It begins with remembering that space is not an empty stage for human dreams. It is a living archive of creation. Each asteroid, each rock, is a fragment of the solar system's early memory. To touch it is to touch the beginning of everything. Perhaps the true ethics of asteroid mining are not written in law, but in awe. To look upon a stone that predates Earth and whisper, "We will use you wisely," is the first step toward balance. To acknowledge that every gain carries a shadow of loss is the second. You think of Earth's own history, how civilizations once dug too deeply, took too much, and called it progress. Mountains became mines, rivers became waste, forests became fields. The pattern is familiar. Yet, in the silence of space, there is still time to unlearn it. Some dreamers propose a system of guardianship, an idea that every mining company must adopt a celestial counterpart, protecting one asteroid for every one they harvest. A simple symmetry, they say. A balance written in the stars. Others argue for transparency, a cosmic commons, where all discoveries are logged in a shared database accessible to every human being. A kind of open-source universe. Still others believe ethics will evolve naturally, that as humanity expands, empathy will follow. But history offers little comfort in that hope. Perhaps the best safeguard is awareness itself, the quiet realization that power always invites reflection. The miners may bring home metals worth trillions, but if they forget why they began, their wealth will mean little. The void has no judges, no boundaries, no punishments. It trusts humanity to write its own morality into the stars. And so, every beam of light from a satellite, every signal from a mining ship, carries not just data, but responsibility. You take a breath, feeling the weight of invisible gravity, not the kind that bends light, but the kind that bends thought. Ethics is a force too, unseen but shaping every orbit of progress. As your mind drifts towards sleep, you see the miner's lights flicker across a silent asteroid. They work carefully, almost reverently, carving only what they need. Their machines hum softly, like prayers in metal. And you think, maybe this is what it means to grow, not just in reach, but in wisdom. You turn your gaze toward the stars once more, and in the stillness, another question forms, one that leads to the next chapter. If space teaches us humility, can it also remind us of the fragile beauty of home? From orbit, Earth looks small and tender. Its oceans shimmer like liquid glass. Its clouds drift softly, like sighs of breath across a sleeping face. You've seen images before, of course, photographs captured by satellites and astronauts. But to truly see Earth, hanging alone in the dark, is to feel something shift deep within you. All your life, you've known this world through touch, the soil underfoot, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of seasons. Yet from this distance, all that familiarity condenses into one truth: Earth is fragile. A blue heartbeat in a black infinity. The miners, engineers, and dreamers of space often pause here too, their eyes drawn back to that fragile glow. No matter how advanced their ships or how grand their ambitions, Earth remains their compass, the silent reminder of why they build and what they must protect. You watch the curve of the atmosphere, that thin band of light separating life from void. It looks like a veil, delicate enough to tear with a whisper. Beneath it, cities sparkle like neural pulses, rivers glimmer like silver threads. You realize how small the layer is that keeps you breathing, a mere few kilometers of gas, protecting everything you've ever known. And yet, for centuries, humanity has tested its patience. Burning, cutting, extracting. The same hunger that drives you to mine asteroids once stripped mountains and poisoned oceans. Progress and peril, intertwined like the double helix of your own DNA. But in space, the lesson becomes clearer. When you live in a metal habitat orbiting an airless rock, you learn that balance is everything. Waste cannot be wasted. Water must return. Energy must renew. Life depends on cycles, not conquest. You begin to see Earth as a living system, a vast, self-sustaining habitat, not unlike your space stations, but infinitely more complex and beautiful. Asteroid mining was never meant to replace Earth. It was meant to heal it, to draw resources from the void, so the ground beneath your feet could finally rest. To mine without scars. To give your planet time to breathe. You think of the metals buried beneath deserts and oceans, copper, nickel, platinum, the same elements scattered across asteroids in silent abundance. Out there, in the asteroid belt, a single metallic rock can hold more wealth than all of Earth's mines combined. Enough to build cities, power nations, and end wars over scarcity. But the true value of asteroid mining isn't what it brings to Earth, it's what it lets Earth keep. Forests left standing. Rivers left untainted. Air left clean. Imagine a future where extraction happens not in jungles or mountains, but among drifting stones under the sun. Where energy flows from solar collectors in orbit. Where factories hum silently in zero gravity, leaving the soil untouched. It's possible. It's already beginning. And when you think of that, something inside you softens, a hope, quiet but steady, that humanity can learn from its past. You remember standing once on a hill at dusk, watching the horizon fade from gold to indigo. You didn't think of atmosphere then, or carbon cycles, or biospheres. You just breathed, and it was enough. Now, from up here, every breath feels like a miracle engineered by a planet that has kept you alive without asking for thanks. The more humanity looks outward, the more it must remember to look inward. Every asteroid mined, every station built, is another reminder that home is not just a planet, it's a relationship. The balance between taking and giving, between progress and preservation. The scientists who study Earth from space call it the overview effect. Astronauts describe it with awe, the moment when the boundaries between nations disappear, and you see Earth as a single living body, fragile, unified, breathing. Some cry when they see it. Others fall silent. All return changed. Perhaps the true revolution of asteroid mining is not economic or technological, but emotional. It teaches you to see the value of home through the mirror of distance. To understand that the universe is vast, but meaning is small, a pulse of life on one delicate sphere. From the cupola of an orbital station, you watch a sunrise unfold. It takes only 90 seconds for light to spill across continents. The oceans shimmer, cities glint awake, and clouds ignite with fire. It's a spectacle so beautiful it hurts. And then you notice the thinness of that light, how the glow of industry competes with the glow of dawn. You think of the emissions rising from cities, of heat trapped in the atmosphere, of species vanishing quietly while satellites pass overhead. Even progress casts shadows. But perhaps shadows are not the end, only reminders of light. In this silence, far from the hum of human noise, Earth looks peaceful. Yet you know its systems are delicate, the balance of temperature, oxygen, carbon, and water finely tuned over eons. A few degrees of change, and the pattern begins to unravel. That's why the miners look outward, not to abandon, but to preserve. To create an economy that no longer feeds on Earth's body. To ensure that the beauty you see from space remains not a memory, but a promise. You close your eyes and imagine the generations to come. Children growing up under clear skies. Rivers flowing freely again. Cities powered by the light of distant suns. The metals in their homes forged not from Earth's crust, but from ancient asteroids that once drifted in silence. And maybe, just maybe, they'll look up and feel gratitude, not just for what humanity achieved, but for what it chose to protect. A soft reflection fills your thoughts. Earth has always been the teacher. From its magnetic field to its storms, from the arc of its rainbows to the depths of its oceans, it shows you how balance sustains beauty. You are not separate from it. You are one heartbeat in its endless rhythm. As the planet turns slowly below you, you whisper a quiet vow, that progress will no longer mean loss, that creation will not mean destruction. Your eyes linger on the curve of the horizon, where sunlight touches shadow. Beyond that edge, a new question waits, one that will lead you further into the cosmos. If we can protect home by looking outward, what new sources of life might we find among the stars? No machine can replace the pulse that drives exploration. Amid the hum of engines and the silence of stars, there is still one sound that matters most, the steady rhythm of a human heartbeat. You hear it in your chest as the ship drifts through darkness, a quiet metronome of life against the endless background of nothing. It reminds you that beyond metal and code, beyond fuel and physics, every step into space begins with longing. You think of the first explorers, not astronauts, but dreamers who once looked up from firelit nights and wondered what those distant lights were. Curiosity was humanity's first engine. Fear came later. But even now, when the stars are no longer unreachable, the same curiosity burns inside you, small and patient like an ember that never dies. In the sterile corridors of orbiting habitats, that ember becomes everything. The walls hum with recycled air. Machines whisper through endless cycles of correction and control. Yet every person here, every scientist, engineer, pilot, or caretaker, carries something fragile that no circuit can imitate: hope. You walk through the sleeping quarters of a mining crew on rotation near Mars's orbit. The rooms are small, filled with soft lights and photographs taped to walls. One shows a child holding a seashell. Another, a forest glowing with sunlight. Tiny reminders of Earth, pieces of the familiar kept close to keep loneliness at bay. Isolation in space is unlike anything on Earth. It is not the absence of people, but the absence of sound, of randomness, of weather. Every breath you take feels monitored, measured. Every movement carries weight. And yet, in that quiet, the human spirit grows sharper. You learn what it means to be alive when everything else is still. Psychologists call it cosmic perspective, the realization that your worries shrink when measured against infinity. But what they don't say is that the opposite also happens. Your compassion expands. When you see Earth as a fragile sphere, you begin to care more deeply for the lives upon it. Every miner, every astronaut knows this. Between shifts, they speak softly over comms, trading jokes, stories, and silence. They talk of the food they miss, the smell of rain, the feel of gravity pressing against their feet. They talk about home not as a place, but as a feeling, warmth, laughter, belonging. To live in space is to be constantly reminded of connection. Every action here depends on others, the engineer maintaining oxygen filters, the pilot adjusting solar arrays, the medic checking heart rates. Alone, none could survive. Together, they create an ecosystem of trust. Even the machines echo this human need for interdependence. Mining drones work in swarms, communicating through invisible signals. Satellites relay power to stations far away. A single failure could collapse the chain, but cooperation, even between machines, keeps the system alive. It's as if the universe itself rewards unity. Late at night, when your shift ends, you float by a window and watch sunlight crawl across the asteroid surface. It glitters against the mining frames, each one a reflection of human persistence. You think about how strange it is, to feel pride and melancholy at once, to know that progress and solitude now share the same horizon. Some astronauts describe their time in space as meditative. They speak of losing track of days, of existing only in cycles of light and shadow. In those moments, their hearts align with something vast, not religion, not science, but a quiet reverence for existence itself. You, too, feel it now. The weight of stillness. The truth that all exploration is emotional before it is physical. Humanity doesn't venture outward because it must, but because something deep within it wants to understand. That want is love, disguised as curiosity. You think about how delicate that love is, how easily it could be forgotten in the machinery of progress. That is why humans must go alongside their creations, not just to command them, but to remind them of purpose. Machines can build, but only hearts can dream. There's an old story astronauts tell, of hearing strange sounds in their headsets when they're alone in orbit. A faint hum, almost like breathing. Some say it's the echo of their own heartbeat reverberating through the suit. Others think it's the ship, expanding and contracting with the cold. But those who've been there say it feels like the universe itself is alive, and listening. Maybe that's what keeps humanity going, the quiet belief that it's not truly alone. That the cosmos, vast and indifferent as it may seem, still holds space for consciousness, for awareness, for love, for care. In the early days of asteroid exploration, many questioned why humans should risk their lives when machines could do the work more efficiently. But efficiency was never the point. A machine can mine. Only a person can wonder what the metal once was, how it formed, and what it means to use it wisely. When miners rest, they often record messages to send back home. Some are technical reports, others simple good nights. Yet all carry a tenderness that travels light years. I saw Earth rise again today, one voice says. It still makes me cry. You think of that, how emotion becomes the final frontier. How even here, surrounded by silence, the heart refuses to quiet. It beats as though to say, I'm still here. I still feel. Perhaps that is what gives space meaning, not its emptiness, but what humanity brings into it. The echo of laughter in a pressurized cabin. The whisper of a lullaby over a radio link. The warmth of a human voice reminding another, you are not alone. The human heart is both anchor and compass. It keeps you grounded while leading you forward. It reminds you that exploration is not escape, but return, a journey that circles back to the need for connection, for love, for home. And as you float near the window, Your heartbeat becomes a rhythm that joins the hum of the universe, soft, steady, eternal. Out there, a new light glints across the horizon, another structure being built, powered by sunlight drawn from the endless dark. You feel a quiet curiosity rising again, a gentle pull that asks, if the human heart can survive in space, can it also build a future shaped by light itself? You drift alongside the silent hum of machines orbiting high above the Earth, a chorus of metal wings catching sunlight. They gleam like petals of some vast cosmic flower, turning slowly, deliberately, in a rhythm only space can teach. Below, Earth spins in silence, its oceans glinting like molten sapphire. Up here, no sound carries, yet you can almost feel the vibration of progress in the stillness. These are the factories of light, the first forges not bound by gravity or air, where creation happens in the purity of vacuum. There are no walls, no floors, only frameworks of glimmering alloy, anchored by magnetic fields and sunlight. Everything that breathes here hums with electricity and the careful balance of intention. Each structure is powered directly by the sun, its rays harvested and focused with quiet precision. Solar sails unfold like wings, reflecting brilliance across endless darkness. You can sense how efficient it all feels, how elegant the simplicity of it is. No smoke, no fuel, no waste. The universe itself provides the energy, steady and eternal. A robotic arm drifts past, holding a shimmering sheet of metal thinner than air. It turns in the light, heat from the sun welding molecules together. In zero gravity, the molten material cools perfectly. No sagging, no flaw. You realize that space, once hostile, has become the perfect environment for making. There's beauty in this stillness. Every motion is slow and deliberate, as if the machines themselves are meditating. There's no rush. Time here feels endless, measured not in seconds but in orbits. And perhaps that's why humanity is changing, because in space, creation takes on the rhythm of eternity. You watch as raw material from asteroids is ferried in, chunks of iron, nickel, platinum, guided by autonomous craft. Each rock is melted by concentrated sunlight, reformed into beams, cables, panels. You can almost imagine the whisper of molten metal as it reshapes into architecture, into possibility. The universe's oldest stones are being reborn into instruments of tomorrow. There are people here, too, though few. They float gently through the frameworks, suits gleaming like mirrors. Their gestures are slow, their speech carried through comms that buzz softly in your ear. You sense their calm, a serenity that comes from purpose. To them, this isn't work. It's devotion. One woman adjusts a solar array, her hands moving with the grace of someone painting light itself. Another watches a robotic smelter carve precision into titanium. They smile at the craft, not at the power. Humanity has always built to survive, but now, perhaps, it builds to harmonize. You notice how different it feels from the factories of Earth. There's no noise, no urgency, no pollution. Every process is circular. What's used is reused. Even heat has value here. The byproducts of fusion, the chill of vacuum, the dance of photons, all are woven into the rhythm of production. Nothing wasted. Everything part of the design. It feels like balance, like a new kind of civilization learning to build with the universe rather than against it. You wonder if this is how creation was always meant to feel, effortless, luminous, quiet. The orbiting stations glint like fireflies across the darkness. Each one builds components for satellites, habitats, energy grids, fragments of a new world forming piece by piece. You imagine thousands of these floating workshops one day, linked like constellations, each adding a note to the song of progress. Down below, Earth begins to depend on them, for metals, for technology, for hope. Supply chains stretch across the void, no longer bound by oceans or borders. It's as if humanity's roots are growing upward now, reaching for sunlight instead of soil. And yet, as you watch, you sense something deeper at work, not just industry, but transformation. Humans are becoming a species of light, drawing power and purpose directly from the stars. The forge has become both a symbol and a truth, that survival now depends not on what's taken, but on how gently it can be built. You imagine future generations looking up at the night sky, knowing their homes and factories orbit above them. The line between Earth and space blurs. The sky is no longer an unreachable ceiling, it's an extension of home. As the orbital forges turn, a new kind of poetry unfolds, one written not in words, but in photons and metal, rhythm and silence. Each creation glows faintly, like an ember of the sun itself, shaped into meaning. And you realize, quietly, that humanity is learning from the cosmos. Learning that everything that shines, endures. Everything that moves in balance, thrives. The sun continues to pour energy across these silent stations, and the machines respond in kind, light reflecting light. You drift a little farther from one of the forges and look back at the network of glowing lines and nodes. From this distance, it looks less like machinery and more like a constellation, a man-made nebula of creation. It reminds you that progress, when done with reverence, can be as beautiful as any star. Somewhere, another station begins construction, its frame catching the first rays of dawn. The hum of the forge deepens, steady, infinite, like the breath of the universe itself. And as the light spreads outward, you feel the next thought rising within you, calm and inevitable. If the future can be forged in light, what harmony might be built next, when every orbit joins the same quiet song? You float among the orbiting forges of light, and a realization begins to form within you, that what you are seeing is no longer just invention, but orchestration. Every satellite, every mining craft, every solar array plays its part in a greater pattern. From afar, the network glimmers like a web of purpose, connecting Earth to the infinite. It feels less like technology and more like music, a cosmic symphony composed of motion, light, and care. Each component of this new space economy depends on another. The asteroid miners supply metals for orbital habitats. The habitats power manufacturing stations through solar grids. Waste heat becomes energy. Debris becomes material. Everything cycles. Nothing forgotten. The system sustains itself, like a melody returning to its theme, quiet, deliberate, whole. You watch as a tugship carries a fragment of an asteroid toward a processing hub. Its engines glow faintly, pushing the rock with slow grace. The sunlight ripples across its hull, and for a moment, it looks alive, like a whale gliding through an invisible ocean. You think of how once, humanity took without end, drawing from Earth's crust, its forests, its seas. But now, far above, something gentler is unfolding, a civilization learning to give back through balance. The builders of space learned quickly that waste here is danger. A single loose bolt can destroy a station, a drifting shard can tear through a hull. So nothing is left to drift. Every object is accounted for, tracked, repurposed. The discipline of sustainability was not a moral choice, it was survival. But over time, it became philosophy. You sense it in the way the orbital systems breathe, intake and release, like the slow exhale of a sleeping planet. Minerals mined from asteroids feed construction arrays. Energy harvested from the sun powers reactors that recycle air and water. Even human waste is broken down, converted into oxygen and nutrients. The cycle closes perfectly, a continuous loop echoing nature's oldest design. The engineers here speak of it with reverence. To them, sustainability is not just a system, it's a story. One they tell through equations and orbits, through efficiency and silence. We are learning from stars, one says softly through the comms. They give without exhaustion. We can, too. You watch as sunlight passes through layers of thin golden panels, powering life far from Earth. The light seems endless, but you can feel the gratitude behind its use, a humility born from knowing the cost of excess. Each panel gleams like a prayer, each orbit measured in grace. And still, the Earth turns below, blue and bright and fragile. You can see its clouds swirling, its storms forming and fading. You remember how much was once taken from that world. You remember cities shrouded in smog, rivers running dry. But up here, in the quiet of space, those mistakes have become lessons. Humanity has learned to live within limits, not through deprivation, but through design. Every process is circular, every machine part of a larger rhythm. You begin to understand that this is what the future was meant to be. Not endless expansion, but endless renewal. There is a sound in the silence, not a literal one, but something felt. The vibration of solar collectors turning toward the sun. The slow rotation of habitat rings maintaining gravity. The subtle pulse of thermal vents releasing heat. Together, they create a rhythm that feels alive. You call it a symphony because that's what it feels like, instruments in harmony, playing for the universe itself. And like all symphonies, it begins with listening. Humanity has learned to listen, to the needs of the environment, to the pace of the orbit, to the limits of matter. Even the robots listen, in their way, adjusting and adapting, guided by algorithms tuned for equilibrium. You drift closer to one of the habitat rings and peer through its transparent walls. Inside, a forest grows, carefully cultivated trees swaying gently in artificial wind. Water drifts in beads across the air before being drawn back into circulation. It's not a perfect replica of Earth, but it breathes. It reminds you that life can thrive anywhere, so long as it respects the rhythm it's part of. Down corridors lit by reflected sunlight, you see murals painted by the station's inhabitants, depictions of oceans, mountains, stars. It's as if they are teaching themselves to remember what they're protecting. Sustainability, you realize, is not just a technology, it's a feeling. A quiet, steady love for continuity. You float on, past a recycling dock where melted alloys are reshaped, past a greenhouse dome where algae glow like emerald veins. Everything moves in a circle. Nothing ends. The perfection of it fills you with a peace you didn't know you'd been seeking, the peace that comes from knowing that creation can exist without destruction. You think of the old saying, that life is what persists. Perhaps this, you wonder, is what it truly means to be alive as a species, to sustain, not to consume. A transmission hums faintly through the comms, a voice reading from a distant station log. Every atom we use must return. Every orbit we touch must remain clear. The cosmos gives endlessly. So must we. The words feel like music, like a prayer of purpose whispered through the vacuum. You close your eyes and imagine Earth's future, powered by the lessons learned here. Cities fed by solar grids, oceans cleaned through orbital filtration, air purified by technology born among the stars. The harmony that began in silence may one day echo across the entire planet. And as you open your eyes, you see the sun once more, blazing steady and eternal, the conductor of this cosmic orchestra. Its light touches every panel, every ship, every seed of life. You can almost hear the melody, the whisper of balance, the hum of gratitude, the rhythm of renewal. And in that moment, it feels as if the whole universe is breathing with you, a single, endless inhale of harmony. You let the thought settle, soft and weightless, as your gaze drifts toward the far edge of the solar grid. Beyond it, faint and shimmering, you glimpse something new being built, larger, brighter, more intricate. A structure designed not just to survive, but to grow. You wonder quietly, as the light warms your vision, what comes after harmony, when creation itself begins to dream. Space looks serene from a distance, a vast calm ocean of light and shadow. But as you drift deeper into its silence, you begin to feel its weight. The stillness conceals storms no eye can see, invisible radiation, magnetic tempests, the slow erosion of machines by cosmic dust. Out here, the universe tests everything: metal, mind, and meaning. The first challenge is distance. Even a message to the nearest mining station takes minutes to arrive. Commands echo through the void with delay, so every choice must be made with trust. The engineers on Earth cannot guide every movement. The machines must think for themselves. You imagine the loneliness of a robotic miner, its sensors scanning for sunlight, its arms adjusting to a slow rotation, guided only by pre-written logic. It does not know silence. It is silence. Then comes radiation, relentless, unseen, and unmerciful. High-energy particles from the sun and distant stars strike every exposed surface, breaking bonds, corrupting circuits, wearing down life itself. The walls of a habitat must be thick enough to absorb the fire, yet light enough to fly. Engineers coat ships in layered alloys, shielding with water, regolith, and hope. Inside, humans live behind barriers of science and faith, trusting that the equations are right, that the numbers will hold. You imagine yourself inside such a station. The hum of filtration systems fills the silence, a mechanical heartbeat. Outside, the stars glow cold and indifferent. Every hour is measured, every breath counted. Yet the people continue, planting, building, repairing. There is courage here, but not the loud kind. It's the quiet, enduring kind that outlasts fear. Cost is another enemy, not in currency, but in time, energy, and attention. To move a single ton of metal from an asteroid to orbit takes months. Each mission consumes fuel, data, and patience. Mistakes can erase years of progress in seconds. Yet no one stops. Humanity has learned that difficulty does not mean defeat, it means refinement. There is also the human challenge: isolation. You can simulate gravity, filter air, and recycle water, but you cannot fully imitate Earth's presence. The sight of clouds, the sound of wind, the pull of home, these things live inside the mind. Astronauts speak of Earth hunger, a longing so deep it feels like a gravitational force of its own. So they create rituals, tending small gardens, playing recorded waves, painting walls with Earth's colors. They remind themselves of blue. The void is a patient teacher. It reveals the weaknesses of arrogance and the strength of humility. It teaches that nature cannot be rushed or conquered, only understood. Each machine failure is a lesson. Each communication delay, a meditation on patience. You begin to see that every challenge shapes humanity into something more deliberate, more aware. You think of a mining outpost orbiting a dark asteroid. Its solar wings extend like petals toward faint light. Suddenly, a flare from the sun erupts. Radiation bursts across space, overwhelming sensors. Systems go offline. 4 hours, there is silence. And then, one by one, the failsafes engage. The outpost turns its shielded side toward the storm. It waits. The engineers back on Earth monitor helplessly, unable to intervene. But the design holds. The machines survive. When the flare passes, power returns, and a single transmission blinks through, "Still here." 2 words, but they carry the weight of 1,000 hopes. You understand then that space exploration is not only about discovery, it's about endurance. The universe does not offer comfort. It offers truth. And those who face it must learn to adapt, not against it, but with it. Engineers modify algorithms to predict micrometeorite paths. Biologists design bacteria that can recycle air more efficiently. Psychologists study the rhythms of isolation, finding ways to keep the human spirit balanced between duty and wonder. Every challenge becomes a doorway, an opening to deeper understanding. And yet, some dangers remain unsolved. Cosmic radiation continues to whisper its quiet decay into the cells of those who dare to live beyond Earth. Machines age faster than expected. Fuel reserves dwindle. The dream of sustainability is strong, but the reality is delicate. Even the most perfect cycle trembles when tested by infinity. Still, humanity endures, not because the challenges fade, but because they continue. Progress in space is not a line, but a spiral, each turn carrying you forward through failure and learning. The miners and engineers speak of resilience engineering, a practice of expecting the unexpected. They treat uncertainty not as an enemy, but as a companion, one that walks beside them in every orbit. You drift past one such crew now, faces calm, eyes bright with quiet resolve. They share stories of near misses and small victories, a broken valve repaired in time, a power grid rebalanced before blackout. They laugh softly, the kind of laughter born from survival. Out here, humor is a kind of gravity. It keeps the soul from drifting too far. And when night falls, though night means nothing in the endless dark, they gather near observation windows, staring at the blue glow of distant Earth. Their silence feels sacred, like prayer. In that silence, you realize something profound, that challenge and beauty are not opposites. They are partners. Without difficulty, there would be no meaning in endurance. Without danger, no value in hope. The void tests everything, yes, but it also refines everything it touches. What survives becomes stronger, wiser, more humble. The harshness of the cosmos is not cruelty, it is clarity. You feel it now, that clarity, settling into your mind like starlight. The realization that humanity's greatest strength is not intelligence or power, but persistence. The willingness to keep moving forward, no matter how vast the silence ahead. The stars watch quietly, indifferent yet constant. They have seen civilizations rise and fall, dreams burn and renew. And still, here you are, fragile, luminous, alive. You turn your gaze toward the far horizon, where a new generation of miners prepares to leave orbit. Their ships glint in sunlight, ready to follow paths no map can promise. There will be new challenges waiting, more storms, more silence, more lessons. But beyond all of it, there is a promise that endures. Because even in the coldest reaches of space, there remains a spark, a small, steady flame that refuses to die. You close your eyes and feel its warmth. It flickers softly in your chest, reminding you why humanity came here at all, not to escape Earth, but to understand it better. And as the hum of the engines fades into silence, a single thought drifts through your mind. If challenge is the test, then perhaps connection is the answer. You awaken to the rhythm of gentle rotation, a soft hum, a slow shift of gravity beneath your feet. Outside the window, Earth drifts far below, wrapped in its familiar blue. But this is not home anymore, not exactly. Around you, the new spacefarers have begun their quiet lives, engineers, biologists, miners, teachers, children, the first to live between worlds. They move through narrow corridors lined with panels and light. Their voices echo softly in recycled air. Every sound is precious here, the laughter of children learning to walk in half-gravity, the whir of ventilation systems that keep them alive, the rustle of fabric as someone floats past. Life in orbit has become ordinary, and that is its own miracle. What was once exploration is now existence. Habitats circle the planet in patient loops, each one a small city, glowing like lanterns in the eternal dark. Beyond them, the mining outposts shimmer, fragments of humanity scattered among the asteroids, tethered not by distance, but by intention. You drift through this network of light and effort. Every spacefarer carries a dual heartbeat, one for Earth, one for the stars. They have learned to live in rhythm with the cosmos, their days shaped by the cycle of orbit and light. Morning and night are measured not by sunrise, but by solar panels turning toward or away from the sun's sleep, and waking follow not clocks, but the pulse of rotation. In the agricultural ring, green stretches of crops bloom beneath artificial suns. Wheat sways in gentle arcs, responding to simulated wind. A botanist moves carefully between the rows, her fingers brushing against leaves as though greeting old friends. "We're growing soil," she whispers. "One day, it will feel like Earth again." Every part of life here is crafted with intention, a ballet of systems that must never fail. Water cycles endlessly through filters and roots. Waste becomes food for bacteria, bacteria become nourishment for plants, and plants become breath. Humanity has woven itself into the smallest cycles of nature, each person a participant in the dance. But beyond the precision, there is tenderness. In the recreation dome, a group of children watch Earth rise through the transparent ceiling. They trace its outline with their fingers, whispering about the continents where their grandparents live. They have never felt rain, but they dream of it, tiny drops falling from invisible skies. When they laugh, their voices ring with both wonder and longing. You realize that these children are the true pioneers, born not of one world, but of two. Their understanding of home is wider than any before them. They are the link between the planet that birthed humanity and the expanse that now shelters it. Their future lies not in returning, but in expanding what belonging means. Outside the domes, miners drift in slow motion across the surface of a small asteroid. Their suits gleam under sunlight reflected from distant mirrors. They move with the grace of dancers, tethered by thin cables to the rock. Each impact of their drills sends silent vibrations through the vacuum, a heartbeat of effort echoed across space. At the end of their shift, they pause and look toward Earth. They speak of its colors the way poets once spoke of stars. "You forget the blue," one says softly, "until you see it again." The words float through the comms like prayer. Everywhere you go, you sense the same quiet reverence. These new spacefarers understand fragility. They know that survival depends on care for machines, for ecosystems, for one another. Community is not optional here. It's oxygen. They share tasks, share meals, share silence. When one station struggles, others send supplies. When a life is lost, every habitat dims its lights in mourning. And yet, despite the distance, Earth remains their anchor. Music from Earth plays in the background, lullabies, folk songs, symphonies. On festival days, they project images of oceans onto their walls, dance to rhythms once carried by waves. Even in orbit, the memory of the planet lives within every heartbeat. You drift toward a large observation deck, where a small group gathers in stillness. They're watching something beyond the asteroid belt, a bright speck slowly moving across the stars. It's a transport ship, carrying settlers to Mars orbit. A new journey within the greater journey. "We're not explorers anymore," one of them murmurs. "We're gardeners." You understand what they mean. Exploration once meant conquest, now it means cultivation. Humanity has learned that to live among the stars is not to take, but to tend. The new spacefarers do not conquer the void, they inhabit it with care, building lives in balance with silence. A miner from the outer belt sends a transmission that travels for hours before reaching the relay. "We are not lost. We are expanding." The message spreads quietly through the network, a simple sentence that feels like a seed taking root in every mind. You imagine the future, stations linking to stations, habitats growing like constellations, Mars domes glowing faint red against the night. Each one a small extension of humanity's reach, and each one, somehow, still human. But there are moments of doubt. The isolation is deep, and sometimes, silence feels heavier than gravity. Some wonder if this expansion is worth the price, the distance from forests, from oceans, from wind. Yet when they look out and see the curve of Earth shining beneath them, they remember, this was never about leaving. It was about learning how to stay connected, no matter how far they drift. One of the elders, a former astronaut now teaching children about navigation, says it best: the stars are not escape. They are mirrors. They show us who we are when there is nothing left to hold on to but ourselves. As you listen, You feel that truth settle deep inside you. The new spacefarers are not escaping Earth, they are carrying its essence outward. Every seed planted in zero gravity, every song sung in orbit, every breath shared between humans and machines, it all whispers the same message: life adapts, always. You close your eyes and imagine their future, generations born beneath artificial suns, their dreams shaped by constellations and circuitry alike. A humanity that has learned not just to survive, but to belong, wherever there is space and light. Outside, the stars remain still, but between them, motion continues. Small ships glide across invisible paths, carrying supplies, stories, and hope. A quiet civilization grows, not on conquest, but on cooperation. And as the Earth rises once more, casting its pale reflection through the viewport, you understand that this is not the end of exploration. It is the beginning of residence, a home not on one planet, but within the fabric of space itself. You take a slow breath, feeling gravity shift beneath your feet, and whisper a thought that feels like both promise and prayer. If humanity can learn to live here, gently and together, then perhaps the stars will begin to feel like home. From the quiet rooftops of cities and the silent deserts beneath vast skies, humanity begins to look up again. Telescopes, some old, some new, turn their mirrored eyes toward the heavens, tracing the orbits of the machines and habitats that now circle the Earth. Children press their faces to the eyepieces, their small hands trembling with the same awe that once filled the hearts of early astronomers. The night sky has changed. It glimmers not just with stars but with human-made constellations, refineries, stations, and the faint reflections of orbiting dreams. You stand among them, watching as a thin streak of light moves gracefully across the darkness. It's not a meteor. It's a transport ship returning from the asteroid belt, carrying precious metals and frozen water. A teacher points it out to her students, explaining that it's a symbol of how far humanity has come, not in distance alone, but in purpose. Once, that streak would have been a fleeting moment. Now, it's part of humanity's daily rhythm, a reminder that the boundary between sky and civilization has begun to blur. Back on Earth, documentaries play on classroom walls. They show the early years of mining missions, the failures, the near disasters, and the courage that made them succeed. Students watch in silence, captivated by the stories of those who dared to leave Earth to touch stone older than the planet itself. Some of them dream of following. Some already know they will. The line between astronaut and worker, scientist and explorer, grows thinner each year. In homes, news feeds show live transmissions from orbiting colonies, glowing spheres of metal and glass, bathed in sunlight. Families gather to watch as humans float through zero-gravity corridors, smiling at the cameras, holding up tools, or waving Earth's blue marble in the background. There's laughter, sometimes tears, but above all, a quiet realization: the human story no longer ends at the edge of the atmosphere. The world begins to change in subtle ways. School curricula now include orbital mechanics, space ethics, and resource sustainability. Governments form new agencies, not to conquer space, but to coordinate life within it. The language of humanity expands. Words like asteroid harvest, orbital forge, and stellar trade become as common as factory and harbor. The dream of the stars, once science fiction, becomes an ordinary part of conversation. Artists, too, are inspired. Painters depict vast depots orbiting in eternal sunlight. Musicians compose symphonies that echo the rhythm of launch countdowns. Poets write of the miners who dig in silence among the stars. Even those who never leave Earth begin to feel part of something vast. The sky no longer feels like a ceiling, it feels like an invitation. But amid the wonder, questions arise. Who owns the resources of the heavens? How are profits shared between those who mine and those who remain below? The debates grow fierce, yet through them, humanity learns a new kind of cooperation. No one nation or corporation can hold the sky alone. The challenges of space demand collaboration, patience, and shared vision. You walk through a city at night and notice something strange. Light pollution has lessened. Many nations have dimmed unnecessary lighting to preserve the view of the stars. The constellations are visible again. Children lie on rooftops, tracing not only Orion and Cassiopeia, but also the slow-moving orbits of human-built satellites. For the first time in centuries, the world rediscovers what it means to truly see the sky. There's a shift in human identity, a subtle, collective awakening. People begin to understand themselves not as citizens of countries, but as inhabitants of a planet, part of a cosmic ecosystem that stretches beyond imagination. Maps of the world now come with maps of the inner solar system, showing where human presence has reached: Ceres, Vesta, the trailing orbits near Mars. Earth is no longer alone in its human story. In villages without electricity, children gather around projection screens powered by small solar panels. They watch live feeds from the orbital foundries, where molten metals shimmer like liquid suns. They cheer when rockets launch and whisper when they hear the words asteroid water, imagining a future where their villages have clean wells drawn from space. The old dream of exploration finds a new meaning, not one of conquest, but of connection. The more humanity reaches outward, the more it learns about itself. Every resource mined, every habitat built, becomes a mirror reflecting the creativity and courage of its makers. The sky is no longer a mystery to be solved, it's a home to be shared. And yet, there are still those moments of awe. On clear nights, you look up and see a bright point moving silently above. You think of the people inside, working, sleeping, dreaming, and you realize they are as human as you are, bound by the same gravity of hope. The thought fills you with something ancient and powerful: belonging. Astronomers report that the asteroid belt is becoming a beacon of human activity. Signals flash between robotic stations, and energy beams pulse between relay satellites. But what captures the imagination most is not the machinery. It's the knowledge that every beam of light represents human intention, human cooperation, human possibility. When Earth looks up now, it sees itself reflected in the heavens. The sky tells a new story, of curiosity that refused to fade, of a species that reached beyond fear and found purpose among the stars. And somewhere, far above the clouds, an asteroid glides silently past a robotic harvester. Its sensors blink in acknowledgement, recording the encounter as routine. Yet down below, a child sees that same asteroid through a telescope and whispers to no one in particular, "Someday, I'll go there." The sky listens, and smiles. Above the turning Earth, a new network of cooperation unfolds, delicate, vast, and luminous. Nations that once looked upon each other with suspicion now look upward together. The stars, impartial and eternal, have become common ground. Orbiting stations fly flags from many countries, but in the silence of space, those flags mean something different now. They represent contribution, not competition. The promise of a shared sky is no longer poetic, it is a practical truth written in the geometry of orbit and the language of light. In Geneva, a hall filled with diplomats and engineers glows with the reflected shimmer of holographic projections. On the screens, trade routes between planets stretch like threads of gold. The United Orbital Assembly convenes, an alliance of nations, corporations, and independent colonies that manage the resources and ethics of space. Their discussions are technical and idealistic all at once: how to ensure fair access to asteroid materials, how to regulate orbital debris, how to balance profit with preservation. It is diplomacy reborn beyond gravity. For the first time in history, every region of Earth has a stake in the heavens. African nations contribute solar satellites that beam energy to mining fleets. South American engineers design life support systems that recycle water in zero gravity. Asian consortiums manage the trade logistics between Mars and the asteroid belt. European companies create orbital universities, training the next generation of cosmic workers. North American and oceanic nations coordinate deep space communication relays. The shared sky is not symbolic anymore. It is an economy of collaboration. On Earth, people begin to feel the effects. Cheap access to space metals drives innovation in cities once burdened by poverty. Clean water from icy asteroids revitalizes drought-stricken lands. Space-based solar arrays beam constant energy to remote communities. No longer dependent on finite terrestrial resources, humanity's relationship with the planet begins to heal. Forests regrow. Oceans breathe. The world learns to take less from itself because it now has the universe to share with. Yet this new age of cooperation isn't effortless. Disagreements flare like solar storms. Nations argue over the price of helium-3 and who controls the shipping lanes between Earth and Mars. There are protests on the ground, voices demanding that space wealth benefit everyone, not just those who can afford rockets. The promise of the shared sky is tested, but not broken. For every dispute, there are 10 collaborations. For every loss of trust, there is an act of unity. You stand on a coastal platform where the global launch ring touches the sea, a massive structure encircling the equator that sends ships skyward using magnetic acceleration. You watch as cargo capsules rise silently, carried by light and magnetism instead of fire. Above you, they vanish into the blue, joining the glimmering chain of orbital industry. Around you, workers from dozens of nations speak a mix of languages, laughing, adjusting equipment, sharing meals. The project belongs to no one country. It belongs to all of them. Humanity has discovered that progress, when shared, multiplies rather than divides. Scientists share data on asteroid compositions in real time. Engineers collaborate across continents via quantum communication. When one orbital habitat faces a systems failure, others dispatch drones and supplies without hesitation. The sky is no longer a race, it's a network. And like any living network, it thrives on connection. Children grow up under a new kind of light. In their classrooms, digital globes show both Earth and the orbits that surround it. They learn to calculate trajectories, understand radiation shielding, and discuss the moral weight of altering celestial bodies. For them, up there is not distant, it is home, or at least the extension of it. The boundaries between astronaut, scientist, and citizen blur into something larger, a species-wide identity. Art reflects this transformation. Murals in urban alleys depict humans hand-in-hand beneath orbiting habitats. Poets write of the shared silence between stars. A musician in Lagos releases a song titled One Sky, which becomes an anthem played across all space stations. Its lyrics are simple: we all live under one sky, and now we live above it too. The emotional core of this era lies not in technology, but in realization. Humanity has always been divided by borders, yet the cosmos holds no lines. Space, by its nature, cannot be owned, only shared. The recognition of that truth reshapes politics, economics, and even philosophy. Religions adapt, seeing the heavens not as a distant realm of gods, but as the next chapter of human stewardship. At night, on the plains of Africa and the islands of the Pacific, villagers point to moving lights and say, that one carries food. That one carries medicine. The stars, once symbols of unreachable beauty, have become symbols of care. Every orbiting vessel represents cooperation, each a bridge between worlds. You visit a city in South America where a museum of the space age has opened. Its central exhibit is a small rock, a fragment of an asteroid, encased in glass. Beneath it, a plaque reads, "Returned to Earth by many hands." The simplicity of the phrase moves you. Around it, children gather, whispering, eyes wide. They are not admiring a relic of conquest, but a testament to unity. And still, beyond the celebration and the harmony, the mystery of the cosmos remains. Scientists continue to scan for distant planets, for signals that might suggest others are watching. When they do, the message they hope to send is simple: We are one species beneath one sky. The Earth, now glowing with lights both natural and human-made, radiates that message constantly. Every signal, every reflection, every launch tells the same story. In orbit, an engineer floats beside a viewport, looking down on the planet spinning below. The continents, once divided by politics and power, are now just shades of color on a single, fragile sphere. She whispers to herself, "It was never just mine. It was always ours." Outside, solar panels unfold like petals, gathering sunlight that will power thousands of lives. The engineer smiles, knowing that she's part of something far greater than any nation or generation. As the age of shared space deepens, humanity learns something unexpected. Cooperation is not just practical, it's powerful. In sharing the sky, people rediscover empathy. In building among the stars, they remember what it means to belong. The same instinct that once built walls now builds orbiting cities. The same curiosity that fueled competition now fuels connection. And so, under the great silence of the cosmos, the world continues to rise. Above deserts, jungles, and oceans, vessels glide through the upper atmosphere. They carry not just cargo, but the collective hope of billions. The shared sky promises more than progress, it promises peace. Not the peace of stillness, but of balance. A harmony between earth and the heavens, between individual and collective, between dream and duty. When you look up tonight, you no longer see separation. You see threads of light weaving a tapestry of unity, a living symbol of what humanity can become when it decides that the sky, in all its endlessness, belongs to everyone. You wake to a horizon that no longer ends with the curve of Earth. The dawn now rises across many worlds, metal cities in orbit, domes on asteroids, and quiet habitats gliding through the dark between planets. Humanity has become more than terrestrial. It has scattered its roots across the solar system, each settlement a reflection of the same ancient need, to belong somewhere, even when surrounded by infinity. From above, Earth appears softer, wrapped in a gentle halo of satellites. Around it, a network of stations hums quietly, their solar wings glimmering like feathers in sunlight. Ships depart constantly, steady, glowing arcs crossing the black. They carry engineers, teachers, families, dreamers. Each departure is both a farewell and a beginning. You can feel it. The world has grown larger, but the distance between hearts feels smaller than ever before. Inside the orbiting habitats, life unfolds with a rhythm all its own. Artificial gravity hums beneath the floors. Gardens of algae and ferns shimmer beneath transparent domes, turning light into oxygen, waste into nourishment. Children chase digital birds through curved corridors that loop endlessly around. Music plays softly through communal spaces, slow, patient melodies that remind everyone of oceans, of rain, of home. Humanity, in its quiet ingenuity, has recreated the essence of Earth in fragments of space. But this civilization is not only sustained by machines. It is held together by understanding, a collective awareness that survival now depends on cooperation, not conquest. The old divisions fade here. A miner from Luna shares tools with a botanist from Kenya. A teacher from Tokyo explains gravity wells to students from Chile and Nepal. Languages merge, accents soften, cultures intertwine like threads in a tapestry of light. It is not a utopia, but it is something closer to wisdom. Each settlement bears a unique rhythm. The Ceres colonies, built into the hollowed core of an ancient asteroid, shine like a cluster of glowing pearls. There, mining tunnels double as living spaces, lined with murals of nebulae and children's handprints. Further out, the Titan enclaves float above methane seas beneath Saturn's orange haze, entire cities beneath pressure domes, their lights flickering like lanterns in the mist. And beyond even them, probes journey toward the icy edges of the Kuiper Belt, carrying seeds, stories, and songs. These far-flung homes share something profound, a sense of belonging to a greater story. On Ceres, a teacher tells her students, "We live where sunlight arrives as a whisper, but still, we grow." On Titan, a child asks his father why the stars seem dimmer through the thick atmosphere. The father answers, "They're not dimmer, they're patient." Across every world, the same lesson resonates. Humanity is not conquering space. It is learning to coexist with it. You drift through a transit hub orbiting Mars, a cathedral of motion and silence. Ships dock and depart, exchanging cargo, passengers, and greetings. In one corner, a small chapel stands, built from salvaged panels of decommissioned satellites. Inside, candles float weightlessly, their flames shaped like spirals. There are no symbols of religion here, only a plaque that reads, "To those who remember Earth." You linger, thinking about how far a single species has come, and how fragile that progress still feels. Everywhere, technology blends seamlessly with art. Habitat walls are etched with poetry that glows faintly in ultraviolet light. Music from distant cultures plays in the background of engineering decks. Painters capture the colors of planetary dawns, the violet sunrise of Mars, the golden twilight of Jupiter's moons. Science has not replaced beauty, it has expanded it. The more people explore, the more they create ways to express awe. Still, among all the marvels, there are quiet moments of longing. Many who were born in orbit have never felt the pull of real gravity, never walked through forests or smelled rain. They dream of Earth the way ancient sailors once dreamed of unseen shores. And on Earth, others gaze upward, longing for the serenity of those silent habitats. In these parallel yearnings lies the soul of the new civilization, a bridge of emotions spanning light years. Trade routes stretch like veins of light between worlds. Cargo ships bring asteroid metals to Earth, and in return, send art, literature, and voices back outward. Radio waves, carrying laughter and stories, ripple across the solar system. Humanity has built not just an economy, but a culture of connection. Knowledge moves faster than any spacecraft, a shared inheritance carried by photons and minds alike. One evening, in an orbital park, you watch as children release glowing spheres into the void. They drift away, carrying encoded messages, poems, promises, fragments of human thought. The children call them light seeds. In time, those spheres will scatter throughout the solar system, tiny embers of human expression floating forever between planets. Perhaps one day, someone, or something, will find them and know that once, humans lived here and dreamed. As the years unfold, this civilization begins to see itself differently. No longer Earthlings, but Solarians, children of the sun, united by light. The word spreads through art and conversation, not decree. To be Solarian means to remember where you came from while accepting that home now has many faces. On Earth, the name carries pride. In orbit, it carries purpose. At the heart of this transformation lies an unspoken truth. Humanity has always been reaching outward not just to explore, but to understand itself. Every outpost, every experiment, every distant sunrise reveals more of what it means to exist. Fragile, curious, and aware. To live among the stars is to recognize the miracle of simply being conscious in a silent universe. And yet, even as this civilization flourishes, it feels the pull of something greater still. Beyond the orbit of Neptune, telescopes catch faint glimmers, ancient comets, rogue worlds, and the shimmering promise of other stars. A new whisper begins to move through the collective imagination. If we can live among the planets, could we one day live among the stars themselves? The question lingers, soft but persistent, carried in music and dreams. It is not ambition that drives it now, but gratitude, a desire to honor the gift of awareness by continuing the journey. To share not only resources or technology, but understanding. You look out through a viewport toward the deep dark between the stars. It feels infinite, but also familiar, like an ocean that has always been waiting for someone to cross it. The reflections of distant suns shimmer on your face. Behind you, generations of humans build, love, teach, and remember. Ahead of you lies the next horizon, one you cannot yet name, but already feel. The civilization among the stars is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a deeper question, one that glows quietly, like a distant world just beginning to dawn. And beyond that horizon, what will you find? The stars have grown familiar now. They no longer evoke fear or loneliness, but a calm awareness of connection. Humanity has expanded beyond Earth, yet the planet remains at the center of memory and longing. From the rooftops of cities and the quiet valleys of distant continents, people look up and see the gentle glow of orbiting habitats. They know someone lives there, works there, dreams there, and that knowledge is a quiet comfort. You feel it as you step outside one evening. The wind brushes your face, carrying scents of soil, salt, and flowers. Above you, satellites drift silently, tiny beacons of human intention. Every light, every reflection, every orbiting station is part of a new rhythm, a revolution not of loud proclamations or battles, but of quiet persistence and cooperation. Humanity has learned to move with the universe rather than against it, and the effect is gentle, profound, and lasting. Children gather in parks, pointing telescopes toward the stars. They trace the paths of asteroid mining ships, the glint of distant solar stations, the tiny hum of communication relays far above. Teachers whisper stories of the miners and engineers who dared to live in orbit, who transformed risk into knowledge, and knowledge into possibility. Every tale is a lesson in patience, empathy, and wonder. Even the youngest understand that the sky is no longer a distant mystery. It is a shared home. In orbital habitats, life continues its slow, graceful rhythm. Plants sway in artificial gravity, water circulates through closed loops, and children learn to walk in corridors where down is a concept to be negotiated with each step. Engineers float among them, repairing systems with the ease of hands used to zero gravity. Every act, no matter how small, sustains life, and sustains hope. The revolution is quiet because it is lived, not declared. Across the solar system, humanity has discovered a truth that is both humbling and empowering. Survival alone is not enough. To thrive, to truly flourish, requires care, collaboration, and creativity. Mining asteroids, building orbital cities, and harnessing solar power are not ends in themselves. They are tools for connection, reminders that progress is meaningful only when shared. On Earth, nations adjust to this new rhythm. Space traffic regulations, ethical oversight committees, and global trade agreements have transformed the way people relate to the heavens. Countries that once competed now cooperate, sharing energy, water, and resources extracted from the belt between Mars and Jupiter. The sky is no longer a field of conquest but a testament to trust, coordination, and mutual respect. Artists capture this new era in quiet, meditative works. Painters depict constellations interwoven with orbital rings. Musicians compose pieces that echo the slow rotation of planets and the soft hum of machinery. Poets write of the silence that binds worlds together. Even in art, the revolution whispers rather than shouts, inviting reflection, patience, and awe. Technology, too, evolves with this philosophy. Sensors detect minute changes in asteroid orbits to prevent collisions. Drones repair solar arrays with delicate precision. Data flows seamlessly between Earth and orbital habitats, allowing people to anticipate needs, solve problems collaboratively, and celebrate discoveries in real time. Every innovation is an act of care, a promise that humanity can live in harmony with both nature and the vastness of space. And yet, the quiet revolution is not without its tension. There are still challenges: radiation storms, resource scarcity, and the emotional weight of isolation in orbit. But even these are met with a deliberate calm. Systems are designed redundantly, communities support one another across distances, and individuals find solace in rhythm, routine, and shared responsibility. The revolution's quiet power lies in persistence, in the understanding that small, steady actions ripple outward across worlds. You walk along a beach at night, the stars reflected in waves. You think of the thousands of people who live in orbit, who mine, teach, create, and care. Their lives are ordinary and extraordinary at once, unfolding with patience and purpose. They are part of a larger story, a gentle testament to humanity's capacity for transformation. Their existence reminds you that progress does not always roar. Sometimes it hums, quietly, steadily, like the turning of planets in their paths. Every orbiting habitat, every mining outpost, every research station carries a fragment of humanity's heart. Communication signals ripple across space, connecting distant worlds with messages of support, curiosity, and wonder. You realize that this network is not only technological, it is emotional, social, and moral. Humanity is learning to weave itself into the fabric of the cosmos, thread by thread, light by light. In the quiet moments, you imagine what the next generations will see. Children who have never touched soil may still dream of forests. Those born in zero gravity will imagine rain. And all of them will know the stars not as cold distances, but as neighbors, teachers, and companions. They will inherit a universe that is both vast and intimately familiar, a universe shaped by care as much as by exploration. The revolution is quiet because it does not need applause. It does not seek fame, conquest, or immediate reward. Its triumph is the continuity of life, life sustained in orbiting gardens, in mining stations, in the hearts of children who look up and dream. It is measured in human resilience, in acts of collaboration, in the gentle pulse of civilizations unfolding beneath the silent stars. You close your eyes and breathe, feeling the rhythm of the planet and the rhythm of the solar system. You feel the weight of history and the lightness of possibility intertwined. You sense the slow, deliberate movement of humanity outward, carrying curiosity, care, and connection with it. And in that awareness, you understand the profound quiet of the revolution. It is not declared in speeches or banners, but in every life that chooses to coexist, to care, and to dream beyond itself. As you lie beneath the night sky, you see the glowing arcs of satellites, the faint shimmer of orbital cities, and the distant reflections of asteroid harvesters. Each one is a quiet testament to what humanity has learned, that progress is most powerful when it hums gently rather than shouts, when it values connection above conquest, and when it measures achievement by the survival and flourishing of all, not the accumulation of a few. And tonight, as the stars trace their slow paths across the heavens, you realize the revolution is not over. It continues in every orbiting light, in every school that teaches the cosmos, in every child who dreams of faraway worlds. The quiet revolution endures, steady, patient, infinite, inviting you to rest in the knowledge that humanity has begun to live in harmony with the universe itself. And as your eyes close, drifting into sleep, you carry with you the gentle awareness that this is not an end, but a beginning. The quiet revolution continues, unfolding softly, everywhere, and within you, as the stars watch silently above.